Hello all. In this particular tutorial, we'll go through RMAN Backup and Recovery Lab. Before I proceed, let me give you a warning. This particular tutorial will be very lengthy because I'll try to cover multiple recovery scenarios. Now, I'll try to cover the most common scenarios that you might come across while working with Oracle as a DBA. There are multiple scenarios that are possible. There might be multiple scenarios for the recovery, and covering all of those scenarios is not possible. So I have chosen some of the most common scenarios that you will come across as a Oracle DBA. The scenarios that I have covered here is related to parameter file, related to control file, related to redo log, and related to tablespace and the database. So let's begin. For the parameter file, if the parameter file is lost and backup is available, how to recover? If the parameter file is lost but backup is not available but alert log is present, how to recover? And if the parameter file is lost and you don't have the backup, neither you have the alert log, how to recover? For the control file, if one control file is lost, you have multiple control files and one control file is lost, then how to recover? And in that case, you don't need a backup. If all control files are lost but the backup is available, how to recover? And if all control files are lost but backup is not available, how to recover? So we will go through these particular scenarios. Then for the redo log, if one redo log member or file is lost, how to recover? Backup is not required. If the entire redo log group is lost and that particular redo log was not required for crash recovery, then still you don't need a backup. And how to recover? And entire current redo log group is lost. However, that redo log group is required for crash recovery. In that case, backup is required, and that is a dangerous situation because the entire redo log group is lost, which is the current redo log, you might have a data loss. So, but I'll cover all of these scenarios. In case of tablespaces, I'll cover how to recover the system data file, how to recover undo tablespace, how to recover temp, how to recover users, and how to recover entire database. Now, in all of these scenarios, remember that only the temp tablespace, there is no backup required because you cannot take the backup of RMAN does not take the backup of temp tablespace. And only the system and undo would need a downtime. Again, the database will need a downtime, but only the system and undo will need the downtime. Rest of all of the table spaces, you don't need a downtime to recover this. So now that we have seen what we are going to cover in this particular tutorial, let's proceed. Before I proceed, let me explain the Oracle database physical files. So Oracle database consists of parameter file, control files, data files, redo logs, archive redo log files, and password file. Parameter file is a database configuration file, and it contains parameter related to memory, database name, control file location. This is the first file that is read by Oracle. Control file. Control file contains data about database itself, such as physical database structure information. Without control file, you cannot open data files, or in other words, database will not be available. Control file also stores information regarding the RMAN backups. Data files or tablespaces contains metadata and data dictionary. So this is the system database, also contains user or application data. Redo logs stores all the changes made to database as they occur. Redo logs protect the database in case of an instance failure. Archive redo log files is a copy of redo logs to one or more offline destination, and the password file is used for local or remote connection to Oracle database. Just give me a minute. So if you take a look at this particular diagram, you'll come to know. So we have a parameter file and we have the password file. The parameter file and the password file is located in Oracle Home DBS. This is the first file that is read by the Oracle database. The parameter file has got a parameter called control files, which actually specify where is your control file located. So this particular parameter this particular parameter file has got a parameter called control files, which actually tells us where the control file is read. So once the parameter file is read, then it reads the control files, and once the control files is read, then it opens the table spaces and relogs. The password file is read also at the beginning of the instance. Now the parameter file is the one which takes up, this is the first file, control file is the second file, and then the last is relogs and table spaces. So this is your database physical structure. Now the open, if now we know how, like, what are the files. So when you start the database, it actually goes through three different phases: no mount, mount, or open. No mount, mount, or open. In the no mount, it will read the parameter file. It will either read the SP file or init file. In the mount mode, it will read the control file, and in the open mode, it will open the data files and relogs. So these are the phases. Now remember one thing, that if the parameter file is not there, it will not go in the no mount state. So you need to have this particular file. So it is like this. You cannot skip, like you have the parameter, you don't have the parameter file, but you have the control file. Let's go to the mount mode. That's not possible. It has to go in this particular sequence. So you need to have the parameter file to go to no mount. You need to have the control file to go to the mount, and you need to have the data files and logs to open the database. Now, how to find the information about your database, like where is all of that located? So as I mentioned, the parameter file is located under the Oracle Home DBS. The password file is also located under the Oracle Home DBS. The control file you can find from $control file. The data file you can find from $data file. Table spaces you can find from table spaces. The redo log you can find from $log file, and archived log file you can find from $archived log. So these are some of the views that you can use to get the information about your database. Now, the first thing that we will see is configuring the Archivelog mode. Now, before I explain how to configure, let's understand the two modes that are supported by Oracle, and one is the Archivelog mode, one is the no Archivelog mode. No Archivelog mode. In this no Archivelog modes, backups are only possible in the mount mode. No point in time recovery, and only the cold backup is possible. In the Archivelog mode, backups when database is open. So this is beautiful. You can take the backup while the database is open or the applications are connected to the database. Point in time recovery is possible, which means that if the failure occurs, you can go exactly 1 second or 2 seconds before. So point in time recovery is possible, and all backup types are possible. Like you can take the cold backup, hot backup, incremental backups, etc., etc. How to find the database log mode, whether it is in Archivelog or no Archivelog? You can use the archive log list command, or you can choose select log mode from $database. Now, how to convert the database to Archivelog? To convert the database to Archivelog mode, remember, you can configure the Archivelog mode only in the mount mode. So what we need to do, we'll create a directory where we'll say these Archivelogs will be redirected to this directory. So let's create a directory. Once we have created the directory, we'll set two parameters, the log arch-1 and log archive format. So these two parameters will set. Log arch-1 is the location. So the directory that you created, you'll specify here. And this is the particular format, and I'll explain you what is all of this when we go through the tutorial. So we will specify the log arch destination, we'll specify the log arch format, and then we will shut down the database, start up the database in the mount mode. Then we will use alter database archivelog. This is the command which actually converts the database from the archivelog to from the no Archivelog to Archivelog. Once we have converted, we will use Archivelog list. We can also use the select log mode from $dollar database. That is also fine. So one of these command we'll use, and then if we have confirmed that the database has got converted into Archivelog, we will open the database. Now let me repeat this, that you have to place the database in the mount mode for configuring the Archivelog. So now that we have seen this, let's proceed with our lab. So let's do this first part where we'll configure the database in the Archivelog. So let's connect to the database. So I got a database called Aura 19D. Let me connect to this particular database, and let me run this Archivelog list. So let me do clear for you. So let me run archive log list. It says it is in the no archive mode, or I can say select log mode from $database. And you can see it says no archive log mode. Either you can use any of this command. So to convert the database into archive log, I've already explained what we need to do. We need to set the dest parameter. We need to then log archive format. We need to set these two parameters. So let's set these two parameters. So this is the location. So let's create this particular directory. Let's create this particular directory. That's done. And what we will do, first thing we will do is we will set this particular, we have set this particular parameter, and we will also set the log archive format. Once that is done, we will shut down the database, start up the database in mount mode, alter database archive log. So let me run all of these four commands. Actually, let me run all of these four commands together. So we are in no archive mode. Remember, we are in no archive mode, and I'm running all of these four commands together. Actually, let me run all of this together so that I don't waste your time. So the sequence that I'm going to follow here, I'll repeat: shut down the database, start up the database in mount mode, alter database archive log list, which will verify, and alter database open. Instead of doing that, actually just let me run these three commands. Yeah, so I've ran these three commands. So this particular command will say database altered, and archive log list will give us this particular output. So give it a few minutes. While this is happening, let me explain the format that I've used here. So the format I've used here is %s. This is the zero field sequence number. The T for timestamp, and R is reset logs ID. So this is the sequence that I've used for the log archive format. So let's see where our database is, and our database is getting shut down. And once it is shut down, it will start the database in the mount mode. So database mounted, we should get a message called database mounted, and database mounted, database altered, and we are now seeing database log mode is archive mode. So here it was saying no archive mode, and now it is saying archive mode. If we can use the another command also, here we can see that it was saying no archive logs, and now if I run exactly same command, it says archive log. So we have converted our database into the archive log from the no archive mode. And the way we have done this is we have set these two parameters, started the database in mount mode, altered database archive log, verified that it is in the archive mode, and now finally we need to open the database. So let's open the database and verify that it goes into the read write mode. So I've run both the commands, alter database open, database altered, and now select open mode from $database gives me that the database is in the read write mode. So our first part is done, where we have configured the database into archive log mode. So let's proceed with the second part. So the RMAN, what is this RMAN? So RMAN stands for Recovery Manager. It is an Oracle utility for backup and restore. Oracle RMAN allows to perform full backup, full database backup, incremental backups, tablespace data file level backups, archive log backups, restore full database, restore particular tablespace, restore particular data file, validate backup, recover the corruption. There are multiple things and many more. So there are so many things that RMAN can do. I simply cannot list all of this here, but there is RMAN itself is a very, very big topic. My intention of this particular video is to cover multiple backup and restore scenarios so that you are familiar and you are able to recover your database within no time. So let's proceed with understanding how to invoke the RMAN. So to connect to the RMAN, you will first set the environmental variable, and you can say RMAN target slash. RMAN target slash means whatever is the current Oracle SID, whatever is the current Oracle SID that is set to our current Oracle environment, it will connect to this. Now, if you have a remote database, so add target, if you want to connect to a remote database, then you can specify here add target is a TNS names entry. You will specify the TNS and name entry. If you use this particular syntax, it will prompt for a password. And if you want to give the password at the same line, so it's this password at TNS names.entry, you can connect here. Now there is another way also. What you can do, you can just invoke the RMAN and then you can say connect target slash, which means that you are then first initiating the RMAN and you are connecting to the target, or you can say connect target sys at target. So I'll show you these commands. Just give me a minute. So, so let's first invoke the RMAN. I've already invoked, but let's aura env. First thing we'll do is set the environmental variable. If I say RMAN target slash, what this means is that we will be connecting to aura 19D. The reason for that is because the current SID is aura 19D. So let's do that, and you can see we are connected to target database aura 19D. Now the another option would be if we have a remote database. Now I don't have the remote database, but I will show you. If this was a remote database, you could say sys at aura 19D. This will use the TNS names entry. This will use the TNS names entry, and this one will prompt you for the target database sys password. So I'm here putting the password, and now we got connected to the target database. Now I could have specified the password in the same syntax. So I could just say RMAN target sys password aura 19D. This will not prompt me for the password because I've already specified the password, and it will get connected. Now I could now what I'm doing here is I'm connecting to the database in the same command. What I can also do, I can just say RMAN and I can say connect target slash. So we are going to invoke the RMAN and then we are connecting to the target. Now what we could also do, is we can use exactly like connect target and then sys password at aura 19D. So we can connect to a remote database as well. Now here this is running on the same system, but I just wanted to show you how it works. So this is how you launch the RMAN session. Now let's understand the RMAN configuration. So the show all parameter will show you the RMAN configuration. And this particular configuration you see from either you can use the show all command or you can use the $RMAN configuration. Now, if you see the list here, there are multiple configuration parameters, but the $RMAN configuration will not show you all of them. And the reason is that $RMAN configuration will only show you the parameters that you have changed on the system. If the parameters are default, it will not show you those parameters in the $RMAN configuration. So $RMAN configuration, only those parameters that you have changed, the default parameters, it will not show you in the $RMAN configuration. Now, these particular parameters you can change. Any of these particular parameters you can change by running the configure command. And how do you do that? So you can say configure, if you want to change this particular parameter, configure control file auto backup, you can say configure control file auto backup on. And if then after that, if you want to check, now currently you can see it is off. Once you change it to on, and when you do the show all, it will show that configure control file auto backup is turned on to on, and new RMAN configuration parameters are successfully stored. So we can change this particular, we can change the auto backup format, we can change the compression algorithm, we can change the backup optimization. So we can change multiple of these parameters, and based on your requirement, you might want to change one or more parameters. So let's begin and let's understand how this works. So what we are going to do, we are going to connect to the RMAN. So let's clear the screen. And we will say, we'll go to RMAN target slash, and what we are going to do, we are going to run the show all command, which is going to show us all the configuration parameters. Now, some of the parameters are big. So let me actually do one thing. Let me open a new session and let me set the environmental variable. That's done. And let me run RMAN target slash, and let's say show all, which will hope it fits. So you can see here, configure control file auto backup is off. And there are some other parameters that I have also set, such as control file auto backup format. And this is the location where whenever the control file auto backup is turned on, then if the auto backup, where it will go, so it will go to this directory. I have also configured another parameter called channel type here. So this channel type helps me. So whenever I take the backup will always go to this location and in this particular format, and I'll explain you what is this format in a minute. So these are some of the things that I have done. So let's now see how the configure control file auto backup on. Let's change this to on. So we'll take this particular command and we will just, instead of off, we will change it to on. So this particular command, what it's going to do is it's going to change it to, if I say now show all, it will change it to configure control file auto backup to on. Now, as I mentioned, you can also use the $RMAN configuration. So if I say select star from $RMAN configuration, this one will tell us only those parameters that have changed. So you can see the control file, I have changed it to on. Backup optimization, I have kept it to on. So the parameters that I have changed, only those parameters are shown here. So remember that as well. So this is the limitation of this. You cannot see all the parameters. You can only see the parameters that you have changed. So the select star from $RMAN configuration is the another way of looking. So you don't have to connect to the RMAN. You can use this particular view to see. So control file auto backup turned on, and the reason why, because see here it was off, but now we change it to on. So now if you can see here it was off, then I said configure control file auto backup on, and now this is on. Now this particular parameter is one of the most important parameter. This particular parameter is one of the most important parameter. You should set this particular parameter in all of your production databases, or in fact in all of your databases. And the reason for that is, like, whenever you take the backup, whether it is the incremental backup, full backup, level 1, level 0 backup, Archivelog backup, automatically the control file will be backed up. Now, control file is one of the most important files in your Oracle database, and hence backing up the control file is pretty important. So I would suggest that whenever you work with the Oracle database, make sure to turn on this particular parameter. So now that we have seen how to configure the RMAN parameters, let's begin with some of the basic RMAN commands. So there are multiple ways you can actually take the Oracle backup. And I cannot cover all of those ways, but these are some of the most common backup methods. So backup database plus Archivelog. This particular command says that you are going to take the backup of the database along with the Archivelog. If you want to take the backup of the database separately and backup of the Archivelogs, you can say backup database, which will take the backup of the database, and backup Archivelog all will take the backup of the Archivelog. If you just wanted to take the backup of this particular tablespaces, you can say backup tablespace system, users. Now you can just specify one tablespace. So backup tablespace system is also fine. Or if you want to have multiple tablespaces, you can say backup tablespace system, users, or you can specify more than 2 as well. Similarly, you can take the backup at the data file level. So backup data file 1, 3. Now, if you want to take the backup of the Archivelog, as I mentioned, backup Archivelog all. But once the backup of the Archivelog is done, you want to delete the older Archivelog, you can say delete input. And if you want to take the backup of only those Archivelog which are not backed up 2 times, you will say backup Archivelog all not backed up to 2 times. You can change this number. Backup Archivelog from time sysdate -2. This particular command says that take the backup of only those Archivelog for the last 2 days. So from time sysdate -2. So from whatever Archivelog are generated for last 2 days, just take those backups. So these are some of the variations of taking the backup. Now you can also take the incremental level 0 or level 1 backup. So if you want to take the incremental level 0 backup, you will say backup incremental level 0 database. If you want to take the level 1 backup, you will say backup incremental level 1 database. If you want to take the cumulative backup incremental level 1 cumulative database. Now we can take the level 0 backup at the tablespace level also. So we can say backup incremental level 01 tablespace system, or if you want to combine multiple tablespaces, you can do something like this as well. You can put a comma separated list. Similarly, you can take the incremental level 0 or level 1 backup at the data file level as well. So you can perform the backups in this particular method. Now, the list, once you have taken the backup, you want to see whether the backups are there and what backups are available. So list backup, with this will list all the backups, the control file backups, the level 0 backup, level 1 backup, full backup, the image copy backup, and what you can say, the control file auto backup, Archivelog backup. So list backup will show you all of the backups. List backup summary is basically the summary of the backup. So whatever backups are taken, the summary of those backups will be shown in the list backup summary. List backup of the database, these are the only database backups. So this will only show you the database backups. List backup of the database summary, this will give you the summary of the database level backups. List Archivelog all will give us the list of Archivelogs. list backup of Archivelog all, this one will tell us what are the Archivelog backups which are present. And this list backup of Archivelog all summary will give us the summary of the Archivelog backups. We have also some of the views that we can use. So $RMAN backup job details. This particular view will tell us the RMAN jobs, like when we took the full backup, when we took the, so whatever backups that we have taken, it will tell us the information in the $RMAN backup job details. So it displays that it has the start time, end time, etc. We can check that. You can use that particular query. We can use this particular view to get the information about your RMAN backup. The backup files is very interesting, and it actually displays information about all RMAN backups, both image copies and backup sets, and also the Archivelog. So there is a BS key, backup set key, the primary key of the backup. So primary key of the backup set, this is the primary key for the backup, file name, the actual file name, the backup type, file type, the backup set completion time, the bytes, and backup set bytes. So we can use these backup files to get the information about all the backup files, like where are our backup files, what are those backup files, etc., the location, and how big those are. So we can use the backup files to get that information. Now, if you remember what I have done here is like, if you, okay, I think I have, yeah. So if you remember that I have configured this channel, I've shown you this particular channel, I've configured this particular channel. So what is going to happen when I run, just if I say backup database, my backup will automatically go to this location in this particular format. And what is this particular format? I'll explain in a minute. So my backup will automatically go to this particular format. Now, if I don't want the backup to go to this location, I have two options. I can just change this particular channel type, but then again, I have to revert it back. Or what I can do, I can actually use I can just say allocate channel. I can say allocate channel disk 1, device type disk, and I can give a different location. And if I use this and then I say backup database, my backup will not go to that location. My backup will go to this location. And we will see that when we perform the tutorial. So the last thing that I want to explain is what can be backed up. So the Oracle RMAN backs up SP file, control file, data files, and archive logs. Oracle RMAN does not back up the password file. Remember, the password files are not backed up. Also, the redo logs are not, I have not mentioned them, but also the redo logs. The redo logs are actually, archive logs are backed up, not the redo logs. So now that we have seen, let's proceed with the basic RMAN commands. So what we will do now, we will see this particular format. As I mentioned, I have configured this particular. So what is this %f? So the control file auto backup format, I have configured this, and this is the location where automatically the control file auto backup will be stored. And this up to here, and this is the %f. What is this %f? %f is a combination of the DB ID, the year, month, and date, and a unique sequence number. So this particular, whenever we took the control file auto backup, automatically it will take this particular format. And %f is the only allowed format in the control file auto backup. Now here you can see for the channel I have configured this %i, %t, %yes, %p, and %p. So %i stands for DB ID. So looking at the backup set, backup information, backup file, I can come to know for which database this particular backup is. Then the T stands for this year, YYMMDD, backup set number, %yes for backup set number, P for the piece number within the backup set, and the T for backup set timestamp. Now, one thing that I want to highlight, that if you use the %yes and %t, the backup set number and backup set timestamp, this particular backup, your backup file, you don't have to use all of this. You can just use %yes and %t. Your backup set will always have the unique name. So if you use this just to %s and %t, it will always have the unique backup set. So now that we have seen how this backup looks like, let's take the backup. So if I'm not wrong, let me close this extra session. So if I'm not wrong, I don't think so I have any backups on this particular database. So let me clear the screen. And let me connect to the RMAN session. And let's say list all. And you can see, list backup. And you can see that the target database control file, so basically does not match, specification does not match any backup in the repository. This means that I don't have any backups on this particular system. So right now there are no backups that I have taken. So let's take some backups, and before we can actually use these particular queries as well to verify if the backups are present. So let's open two sessions. We'll open two sessions. So let's open this session here, and you can see $RMAN backup job details gives us completely empty. And let's see what are the backup files that we got, and that should also give us an empty view. So let's open another worksheet and let's put it here, and you can see that we have no backup information here and we don't have any backup information here. So now what we are going to do, we are going to take first backup and we will say backup database plus Archivelog. So we'll take the backup database plus Archivelog, or we'll do one thing, we'll take the backup database alone. So let's take the backup database alone. So we are initiating the backup of the database. So let's give it a few seconds for the backup to complete. So the backup is running behind the scene. Give it a few more seconds. It should be done anytime soon. And that looks good. So the backup, now if I now run these two queries here, this particular, I'll get the information. So you can see there is a full backup, when it started, when it ended. And if I go here, how many rows do you think will be present? There will be exactly 2 rows. But you will ask me, I only took the one backup. Why there are 2 rows? Remember, the control file auto backup has been turned on, which means that there will be a full backup. So that will be a 1 row for the full backup and second row for the control file auto backup. And I can show you too. So this is the first one is the backup. B stands for backup, C for the control file. So you can see this is the backup for this is the original backup, the full backup, and this is the control file auto backup. And you can see the size also. This is the database backup full size, and this is the 1 MB, which is very small. This is the backup. This is the backup control file auto backup, and we can see that information. We can see that information from here as well. So if I run that same command here, let me connect to the RMAN. Let me clear the session. And if I do list backup, we got a message that there was no backup. But now if we run the command, we will get that we got this is the full backup, and this is the backup set number 2, backup set number 3. So the backup set number 2 is the full backup, and backup set number 3 is actually the control file and SP file auto backup. So this is, we have taken the full backup. Now we can take the, if you want to take the incremental level 0 backup, let's take one incremental level 0 backup. And I've initiated that. So give it a few seconds for this particular backup to complete. And give it a few seconds. This particular backup should complete in few seconds. Yeah, that's completed. So we have taken the incremental level 0 backup, and we will also take the last, we'll take one level 1 backup. So let's take one level 1 backup. And then finally, what we will do, we will also take one Archivelog backup. So let's take all of these backups. And let's take one Archivelog backup as well. So we have taken, if you remember what I have taken, let me actually put it here, so that when we see the list backup command, we'll come to know. So we took a full backup, we took level 0 backup, we took level 1 backup, we took an Archivelog backup. After every backup, there will be control file backup, control file backup, control file backup, control file backup. So if I now run this particular query, we should exactly see 8 rows here. There will be full backup, control file backup, level 0 backup, control file backup, level 1 backup, control file backup, and the Archivelog backup, control file backup. So that should be an 8 rows here. So let's verify. And you can see we got 8 rows here. And every time you can see, this is the, if I show it to you, the size. So this is the full backup, control file backup, full level 0 backup, control file backup, differential backup, level 1 control file backup, Archivelog backup. You can see Archivelog backup and the auto file backup, control file auto backup. And here we should be able to see 4 entries here. So full backup, incremental backup, level 0 incremental backup, level 1 incremental backup, Archivelog backup. So we can see that we got 4 entries here. So we can use this particular views to get the pure proper information about our backup. Now, if you don't want to use this, we can use the list backup commands. So let's now use the list backup commands. So let's understand how the list backup commands works. So we will look at those list backup commands. So list backup, this particular command will give us the backups of all of everything it will give us. But if I want to know the summary, so this one should give us exactly 8 rows. Let me actually clear this particular screen. So this one should give us exactly 8 rows. So you can see backup, the full backup, the control file, then the level 0 control file, level 1 control file, Archivelog control file. So we can see that we got 8 entries over here. Now, if I wanted to only see the level backup of the database, how many backups we have taken of the database, we should get exactly 3 entries, the full backup, level 0 and level 1. Let's see that. So here we got, see, you can see 2, 4 and 6. But if you wanted to see the summary, let me actually show it to you. So when I ran this particular command, 2, 4 and 6, which means exactly 3. Now, if I run this particular command, let me actually clear the screen. And if I say list backup of database summary, we got 3 rows, the full backup, the level 0 backup and the level 1 backup. If I wanted to see the archive logs on my system, we can use list archive log all. These are the archive log. These are not the archive log backup. And if I want to, if I want to see the archive log backups, then I can say list backup of archive log all, or I can say list backup of archive log all summary, and I'll just show you the summary, and we should get exactly 1 row because we have taken only 1 archive log backup. So we can see only 1 row, which is the archive log backup. So this is how you can see the information. We can either use the views, we can use the views or we can use the list backup commands. So now that we know how the backups works, let's now proceed with our SP file thing. So let's go to, before I do that, let me just explain you the password file. I will not cover this. I will cover this when we actually restore the database. I'll just explain this particular, how the password file looks. So the password file is named as Aura PW SID. This SID is your system identifier, Oracle SID. For example, if your Oracle SID is DB, the password file will be Aura PW DB. The password file can be found in Oracle Home DBS. So if I go to the Oracle Home, if I go to CD Oracle Home /DBS, and if I say ls-l Aura PW star, we should see that we got here a password file. So this is the password file for Aura 19B. This is the password file for Aura 19D, and this is the password file for the Arcade, which means that I got 3 databases on my system. One is 19B, one is 19D, and one is Arcade. So the password file is one of the as you can see, it is found in the Oracle Home DBS location. Now, if the password file is lost, you can just recreate that particular password file. And to recreate that particular password file, you have to use the Aura password utility. So Aura password file is equal to give the name of your password file, Aura PW, the name of your database or SID, sys is equal to y. It will prompt for the sys password. When you enter this, it will prompt for the sys password. Now, why the password file is important? Password file is a separate operating system file that stores the password for users with administrative privileges such as sysdba and syshopper. Password file allows users to authenticate and perform administrative tasks on the database even when the database is not open. So because users can only connect to the database when the database is open, because the database stores that particular password in the database. But how, if the database itself is not open, how the user can actually verify that right user is connecting? And that particular information is present in the Aura password file. That's why this particular file is only for the specific users. It is not for the all database users. It's for the admin users such as sysdba and syshopper. And this particular file actually tells us the Oracle whether the user who is trying to open or do the activity, is he authorized to do that? So, and that is why it will read this particular file first, and that's why it says that even when the database is not open, we can still use this particular file. Password file is also essential for remote authentication, database startup and shutdown, and other administrative operations. Now, let's proceed with our initialization parameter file. The initialization parameter file, there are two files. One is sp-file sid.ora or init sid.ora. So if your SID is DB, then the file will look like sp-file db.ora or initdb.ora. You can have both of these files. Basically, those files are also found in the Oracle Home DBS location. Now, remember one thing, if you have both of this particular file, Oracle will read the sp file. If the sp file is not present, it will read the init file. So remember, let me repeat. So if the parameter file is if the parameter file is present, if the both of this particular parameter file is present, then it will read the only sp file. If the sp file is not there, it will read the init parameter file. So let's understand more about this. So sp file p file is called as initialization parameter file. Oracle instance reads this file first and puts the database in the no mount mode. So this particular file is important for your no mount mode. If this file is not present, Oracle database will not start. If this file is not present, Oracle database will not start. If both sp file and p file is present, Oracle will read sp file. If sp file is not present, it will read the init file. Sp file is a binary file. Init file is a plain text file. Oracle can only modify sp file. Oracle cannot modify the init parameter file. If you want to change any parameter in the init file, you have to open that particular file using any text editor such as VI, Nano, or Emac, whatever you want to use. Those tools you have to use to modify that particular init parameter file. Now, here there is a note, you should use sp file rather than init file. So in your database, try to use the sp file rather than the init file. You should always use sp file because Oracle can only modify sp file. Now, let's say if you don't have the init file, you don't have the sp file. And when you try to start the database, you get this, what will happen? It will not go in the no mount mode. So what message you will get? Failure in processing system parameter file, could not open parameter file. So you will get this particular message. Now, there are multiple solutions. So let's say you have the backup, restore sp file or p file from the backup. If the backup does not exist, recreate the p file from the alert log. That is the second option. And if alert log does not exist, recreate p file from the sample init file. These are the solutions. So let's go through these three labs. Init sp file is lost. Backup is available. We'll restore from the backup. The backup is not available. However, the alert log is present. We will create it from the alert log. And if both of this is not present, then we will recreate it from the empty file. So let's proceed with these labs. Now, before I actually proceed with the lab, let me explain this particular scenario. So let's say this scenarios first. If you have the backup, let's say you have the backup, then you will use the RMAN. So let's say you have lost your init parameter file and you have the backup, then you can say restore sp file to, either you can specify the location from sp file backup, or you can omit this particular location and you can just say restore sp file from the sp file backup. So this is when you have the backup. Let's say you don't have the backup, but you have the alert log. Then you can actually use that. You can go to this location you can query this $diag info and you can locate for this alert log. There will be an alert underscore Oracle sid.log. This particular file will be present in this location. And you can use that particular, in that alert log, all the non-default initialization parameters will be stored. So you can use that to recreate your sp file. Sorry, you can recreate p file. Now, so let's what I'm going to say is we will see this in our lab. And last is, let's say you don't have neither you have the alert log, neither you have, somebody has deleted the alert log, all the alert logs, and neither you have the backup. How do you do that? This is a tricky scenario. By default, an Oracle actually gives you, in the Oracle Home DBS, there will be a sample file called init.ora. You can use that particular file and modify it accordingly, or you can use any other p file. If you have any other database on the same system or on any other system, you can use that particular init parameter file and you have to then modify those values. So how do you do that? So we will connect to the sysdba, we'll say create p file from sp file. So this is for the another database. So we'll connect to another database. We'll create the p file from that sp file. Then we will copy that to our whatever we have lost to that particular database, and then we will modify that particular parameter file to suit our the database. So this is what we are going to do if we don't have the backup. Now remember that this when you do this particular method, if any parameter changes that you have set for this particular database, because you are copying that, you have to modify it this particular, and if you don't remember what parameters you have set, like if you don't have that knowledge, then that parameters are lost and you will have to start from the beginning. So this is a tricky scenario where we don't have the option. Basically we don't have the option. You don't have the backup, no alert log. You need to start your database. The business and application people are sitting on your head. You don't have a choice. You need to bring your database. So you have, this is the best scenario that you can do when you either you don't have the backup, neither the alert log. So now that we have seen all of these three scenarios, let's proceed with the lab. So first scenario is what we are going to do. We are going to see where is our, so show parameter. So show parameter sp file will tell us whether the database is running with sp file. So you can see that this particular parameter, if this particular parameter is set, that means our database is using the sp file. So now what we are going to do, we are going to go to that location. So that is basically your Oracle home. So let's go to that particular location. And what we are going to do, we are going to delete both of those files. So let's see what files we got. So we got the password file. I'm not going to delete the password file. I'm going to delete init parameter file, and I'm going to delete the sp file. So let's remove all of this, and let me say this, and done. I've done that. And now when I ran this particular command, you can see the only aura password file is there, and scaura19.dat is there. The init parameter file is gone, sp file is gone. So we have deleted those particular file. Now, so luckily we have the backup. So what we are going to do, we are going to shut down our database, and we'll try to start our database, which will not work. So let's say shut down immediate, and let's say startup. And when we say startup, we will get the message, and the message that we will get is exactly this error: failure in processing system parameter files. So let's wait for this particular commands to complete. So give it a few minutes for this. Connected to target, and you can see failure in processing system parameters file, could not open parameter file. So it cannot start. So it's trying to use the p file, sp file, and it cannot find it, which means that we were not able to start our database. Now, so we need to fix this. So we will, without parameter file, without sp file, the database will not come online. Remember that. So when I say startup, so for some reason, let's see why did this happen. Maybe I'm set to the, it should actually detect, but not sure. That's fine. Yeah. So I'll just say startup, and it will not work. So you can see failure in processing system parameters file, could not open this particular files. So what we are going to do now, we are going to restore it from the backup. Luckily, I know my backup location. So let's go to that particular backup location. So this is why it is very important. You should actually we should also have an report of where you are keeping your backups. So I have that here. I know where, but in your environment, you should always create a backup history, and you should know where you are creating, where the backups are happening. So if in my case, you can see these are the backups. So what we are going to do here, we are going to use the latest control file. This is the control file, and we are going to use this control file to restore using the RMAN target. So the command that we need to run here is, the command that we are going to run here is restore sp file from, but actually the connected to the target. Even if I try to restore it, it's not going to work. I actually missed it actually. So let's actually try that, and I'll show you to you. So if I try to restore it, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try, and we will not be able to restore. So let's try this restore, and you can see that shared memory realm does not exist. So the reason why this happened is because the reason why this happened is because without the init parameter file, the instance is not ready to start at all. So, and if we can't start it, how are we going to restore it? So for to restore the SP file, it needs that Oracle. It needs that Oracle is not available. So this is where we need to do some trick. So what we are going to do here is, if you remember, I told you that there will be a sample file here. So we are going to copy this sample file, and we are going to copy this sample file only for the time being. So what we are going to do, we are going to copy this sample file, and we are going to modify this particular sample file. And we are not interested in all of this. You can actually get rid of all of this if you want, or if you don't want, you can just modify. Like, I'm not interested. So here you have to just give. So our Oracle database is Aura 19D. So let's give that here. Aura 19D, and let's give let's give this to /temp. Let's get rid of this two variables. I'm not interested. And let's also give this /temp. And since we are doing this on 19, let's change this to 19. Yeah, and that looks good. And I'm not interested in all this. So you can see this is a very small file. This is only for the time being that I'm creating. So I'm just using this particular file. I'm using this particular file to start our database in the no mount mode. So I'm just going to start up in the no mount mode. We need to discard that particular file because that is not the correct file. We have to delete that particular file. So remember, once we have done, we will delete that particular file. So this particular file we used only to start our instance. Now, if I go back, so we got this particular error, Oracle not available. I'm going to take exactly same command now, and we should be able to restore our SP file. But before I do that, let me actually go to the Oracle Home DBS /dbs and ls-lrt. And if I say ls-l sp file star, let me clear this. We can see that we don't have the SP file related to Aura 19D. That's what we have deleted. We are working with Oracle database called Aura 19D. So we have deleted that particular file. So we don't have that particular file. Let's see if the RMAN can actually recover that particular file. So what we are going to do, we are going to run exactly same command, which actually failed, Oracle not available, but we have fixed that error by just starting a dummy instance and finish restore at. That looks good. So now let's run the same command. And we got only two files. We got the third file, and this SP file is back again. So this was a dummy file that we used. Now what we need to do, we need to use actual SP file. So let's shut down the database. And we can do the shut abort because we never started the database. And now if I use the startup, it will actually use the SP file. So when I use the startup, it will actually use the correct SP file. So I'll show you show parameter SP file. When I run this, actually I did something wrong. Show parameter SP file, and this time it will say that we have used the SP file that we restored, and we are able to now start up our database. So if I say select open mode, we should get that our database is in the read-write mode. So that looks good. So you can see it is in the read-write mode. So we fixed the error. We used the RMAN command. So the RMAN command that we used was restore SP file from to the location. So we used to which location. So let's actually show you that particular command. So we did not actually use the location. So we just said restore SP file from auto backup. So we used this, and automatically the SP file got restored. So that looks good. So that is the one way. But this was when we had the backup. Now let's think of a scenario when we don't have the backup. So now what we are going to do, we are going to again delete these particular files. we are going to again delete this particular file. So let me actually, before I do that, let me actually capture one information. And that particular information is, where is my alert log? So let's capture this particular information. So I'm going to capture this particular information and put it here. So what we are going to do, we are going to delete both of these particular files again. So ls-l init. So let's do like this, star aura 19d. And what we are going to do, we are actually, instead of deleting it, because I need it for this another lab, so I'll just say delete head. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this. Okay, so now we don't, it will try to look for the init file, it is not there. It will try to look for the sp file, it is not there. So what we are going to do now, we will shut down the database and we'll try to start the database, which will not work. So I'll run all the three commands. So give it a few minutes. Again, we'll get the same error in processing the parameter file, because the parameter file is not there. So give it a few minutes. I've initiated the startup as well. This particular will fail. The database will not start because we have deleted those particular files. So give it a few seconds. And you can see we got the same error. Failure in processing system parameters, could not open parameter file. In this case, the database will not open. So what we need to do now is we need to definitely fix this, because without parameter file, we can't start. So now I know that we have the backup, but let's think of a scenario where you don't have the backup. So this is the second scenario. Let's think of a scenario where you don't have the backup. So as I told you, the alert log contains all the non-default initialization parameters. The default, you don't have to worry. You have to worry about only the non-default. So what we are going to do now, we are going to go back to here. And what we are going to do, we are going to say vi this, and we are going to actually go to the alert log. So let's go to the alert log, and I'll open another session, and let's go to that alert log, and I should actually store that value. So let's go to that location. So how did I get this location? Remember, I use $diag-info, diag trace, where the name is equal to diag trace. So this is the query that I used. So let's go to that location. Under this, you will find a file called alert database, alert underscore the SID of the database .log. So you will find this particular file. So let's open that particular file. So you can see we have got this particular file. So let's open that particular file. And as I mentioned, that particular file contains all the non-default values that you have used for the parameter file. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take blindly, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to insert it here. I'm going to save this particular file. I'm going to verify that it's all got saved, and I'm not going to format it and all that stuff. So let it be like this. And this should work actually. So what we are going to do now, we have created the init parameter file. So we got a message failure in processing the system parameter file. This particular file does not exist. Now let's say what we get when we try to start our database. So let's say, I believe we have fixed the problem. So our database will start up in the normal read-write mode. So I've initiated that. So let's take the select open mode command. Let's verify if our database is in the open mode. I don't think so. I have it. So database open. So you can see we did not get the message. Let's see. Everything looks good. Show parameter name. Everything looks good. And let's say select open mode from database. That looks good. And let's see if our archive, whatever we changed, the archive log list, the archive log parameters, and you can see it is still in the archive mode, and archive destination is also correct, which means that we are able to fix. So the way I did it here, if you don't have the parameter file backup, then you can go to the alert log, open that alert log. So here is the alert log. In that alert log, all of these particular parameters are there. So all that I did here is I just created a file called init parameter file. So this is the file that I created. So this is the exact file that I created. Let me show it to you. So this is the file that I created, and this is basically a copy paste from the alert log. Now, remember, these are only the non-default values. The default values, you don't care because those are default. Oracle will choose the default values. So this is the second way of fixing this particular problem. Now, the last thing is, let's say somebody has deleted all the alert logs, so you don't have the alert log as well, and let's say you don't have the backup as well. How do you fix it? So that is a very, very tricky scenario. So in that particular scenario, what you need to do, you have to either use the sample init file. You have to either use the sample init file and modify the parameters accordingly. Or if you have any other database running on the same server or any other server, you have to create the P file and modify that particular P file. So let's do that. So what we are going to do, we will shut down this particular database because we are going to again do the same thing. So let's shut down the database and let's actually delete those files again. So these are the two files that we are going to delete. Again, if I try to start, we will get the same message that the init parameter file is not there and I don't want to show it to you. So what we are going to do, we'll go to some other database. So let's close all of this. So let's close this, clear the screen. Let's set the environmental variable to some other database. So Aura19b, and let's connect to SQL Plus as sysdba. And let's say create P file from SP file. So we are going to create a P file for this database, not for the one which we have lost. So now if I go to the Oracle Home DBS and if I say clear, if I say ls-l init star, we should have an init parameter file for the database that we just created. So what we are going to do, we are going to copy this particular file. We are going to copy this particular file to our init parameter file. And what we are going to do, we are going to modify this particular init parameter file. So let's modify it. And wherever there is Aura19b, we will change it to Aura19d. So we are going to just blindly change all of those variables. And remember one thing here, So I'm going to just change it. So now that's done. Let's verify in the new file if everything is changed to Aura19d. Let's grab for Aura19d. And yes, everything got changed. And remember one thing, now you have lost all the things like what was the PGA setting, what was the archive destination if it was different, or if any additional parameters you have set, those parameters are lost, but you don't have a choice here. You need to start your database. You don't have a choice. So you just have to copy some other and you have to modify this file. If you remember it, you have stored it somewhere, well and good. If you have not, then you have lost those parameters. You'll have to start it all from the beginning. But however, you will be able to start your database. So now the instance is stop. Now we will start up our database and we should be able to start up our database. So this is the third scenario where you don't have the backup as well. So you go to some other database, copy it, modify it with your parameters and start your database, and you can see database started. So we have learned three different scenarios here. One is when the backup is available, we will use the RMAN. When the backup is not available, but alert log is present, we will use the non-default values. And if both is not present, then we will just copy it from some other instance and modify it accordingly. And we should be able to bring up our database. Now that we have seen the SP file, it's time to move to control file. So what is the control file? Control file is a binary file that records the physical structure of the database. Control file contains database name, names and location of data files and online log files, timestamp of the database creation, current log sequence number, checkpoint information. Control file must be available for writing by the Oracle database server whenever the database is open. Without the control file, the database cannot be mounted and recovery is difficult. Control file is specified using control files initialization parameter. It is recommended to have 2 or more control files, preferably on separate disk drive. If any of the control files becomes unavailable during database operation, the instance becomes inoperable and should be aborted. Remember? So I would say control file is like a heart of your database. Without control file, the database cannot be opened. the control file will prevent, if the control file is not there, you cannot go in the mount mode. And because the control file actually contains the information about your data file, log file, you need to open that particular file, because control file only knows where is my table space, where is my data logs, etc, etc. Not only that, it also contains another information such as when the database was created, current log sequence number, checkpoint information, etc, etc. If you have lost the control file, then the database cannot be mounted and recovery is difficult. And while the database is open, let's say the database is open and you lost the control file, still the database will crash. So the control file must be available, and if it becomes unavailable, the instance will become inoperable and should be aborted. So remember, without control file, you should not run your database. So if you try to start your database when the control file is not there, then you will get this particular message, error in identifying control file. So what are the scenarios? If one control file is lost, copy from the other control file. Remember that you should always have more than one copy of your control file. Those copies are exactly same. They are exactly same. They are like a mirror copy. So if one of the control file is lost, you just copy it from the other control file. Remember one thing, you cannot copy the control file while the database is up and running. You have to shut down your database. So that is also important thing. If all control files are lost and backup is present, you can restore it from the backup. If all control files are lost and backup is not present, you have to recreate the control file. So remember, so we are going to see all of these three scenarios. So the one control file is lost, backup is not required, easy to recover. All control files are lost, backup is available, slightly difficult, but still possible. All control files are lost, backup is not available, tricky scenario. So let's see all of these scenarios. So restore control file when one control file is lost. So what you do, you select the current control file location, shut down the database, copy remaining control file using operating system commands, open the database. So let's use the select name from BW control file, which will give you the list of all the control files. Let's think that control 01 is deleted. Somebody deleted control 01. So what you do, you try to shut down the database. Shut immediate will not work because it will fail. So you have to do the shut abort. Then you copy the surviving control file. You copy the surviving control file. You start up the database and you check the open mode from the database, and you should be able to find that your database is working fine. So when one control file is lost, it's very easy. And as I mentioned, the copy you have to do while the database is shut down. You have to copy only when the database is shut down. Remember that as well. Now, restore control file when all control files are lost, but the control file backup is present. So what you will do, you will restore from the control file auto backup. So in this case, and then recover the database. So you will say shutdown abort, startup no mount. Then you will say restore control file from, because you can't go in the mount mode because the control file itself is not there. Restore control file from control file auto backup. Then you will mount the database, you will recover the database, and you will open the database in reset logs mode. Now, why you have to open the database in reset logs mode? Because you have done the control file recovery. So you have to open the database in the reset logs mode. So this is the restore from the control file auto backup. Now the third scenario, restore control file when all control files are lost and control file backup is not present. This is a very, very dangerous situation. This is a tricky situation. In this particular scenario, what you'll have to do, you'll have to recreate the control file. And when you recreate the control file, you have lost all the backup information. So if you know where the backups are stored and all that stuff, we'll have to use the catalog command to actually catalog those backups. Otherwise, you have actually lost all of those backup information. So you will have to recreate the control file. Then you will have to recover the database using backup control file. Then you will have to recover the database and then open the database in reset logs mode. Now, how to recreate the control file? This is actually a very tricky situation. To recreate the control file, you will have to use the create control statement. And when you use this is a SQL. And you will ask me how to get this SQL. This particular SQL you will have to form based on where you have stored your databases, where you have stored your table spaces, where you have stored your redo logs, etc., etc. So you'll have to form this particular command. It will be a plain SQL file. It's a text-based file which we'll create in a minute. Once we will do that, we'll say recover database using backup control file. Then we'll say recover database, and then we'll say alter database, open reset logs. So let's see all of these scenarios. So let's do one by one. So now, right now, the database is running fine. So let's clear the screen. Let's actually verify. So let's go to the second scenario and we will verify. We have already noted this, but let's actually, I don't need that. Let's leave it. So I'm going to say select name from VDownload control file. So you can see we got, actually we need, we'll just take this information. Let's keep this information here. Yeah. So if we select name from control file, so you can see we got two control files on our system. Let me clear the screen. So we got, and you should always have more than one control file. You can run your database with single control file. It's not mandatory that you have to have this two control file. You can run your database with two control files. However, it is recommended that you should have two or more control files. More the better. And not only that, you should have these control files on a separate disk, like one file on one disk, another file on another disk. So as I said, control file is like a heart. It should be always present for the database to operate. If the control file is not present, your database will crash. It will become inoperable. So that's why I call it as a heart. It's one of the most important file of your database. Now, as I mentioned, one control file is also fine, but it is not recommended. Minimum two, you can go 3, 4, 5, etc. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually, while the database is running, I'm going to just delete one of the control file. And now, if I now say select open mode, so let's say select open mode from $V database. Let's try this. And it says this. Now let's try something more. Let's actually say RMAN target. And you can see we got a message, control file is gone. So we got see, it's not even able to go to the RMAN. So although the database we got open mode from $V database, but RMAN is not able to connect. We have the another control file. We have only deleted one control file. So let me go to this location and let me show it to you. So we have only deleted one control file. So let's clear the screen and let's go to that particular location and let's search for ls-l control. And you can see we have control 02 because control 01 we have deleted. So we have one control file, but still RMAN is not able to connect. Now we will try to shut our database immediate, and that will also not work because one of the control file is gone. So we have to do the shut abort. So you can see the shut immediate will not work. So give it a few minutes for, let's see, and you can see shut immediate is not working. So we'll do shut abort. And remember, all that we have to do is we just have to copy the control file. So what we are going to do, we are just going to copy the control file. So that's done. Now what we are going to do, we are going to copy the control file. That's done. We will start up and we'll verify. And this time our database will be able to start normally. And once we have started our database, here we got this particular message, RMAN was not able to connect. And here we should be good. You can see the database started in the read write. And now if I say RMAN target, you can see it got connected. So even if one of the control file is lost, the RMAN is not able to connect, the shutdown doesn't work, etc., etc. So to fix that particular error, if one of the control file is lost, all that we did, we shut down the database. We shut down the database and we just copied the another control file. Very easy. But remember, copy has to be done when the database is shut down. You cannot copy it while the database is up and running. So this was the first scenario. Now we will go to the second scenario when all control files are lost and the backup exists. So remember, we already have taken the backup. So let's verify if the backup information is there. But I believe that backup information is all there. So yes, that's all good. So what we are going to do now, we are now going to delete both of the control files. So let's go here and let's see what are our control files names. So let's take a look at this and let's actually verify that we got both the control files. So let's actually close all of this third window. Yeah, so we should have now two control files because we copied the 01 to 02. So we have got both the control files. Now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to delete both of these control files. So let's take this, deleted first control file. Let's take this, deleted second control file. Now if I go here and if I do this, you can see no such file or directory, which means I've deleted control 01, control 02. Again, if I try to now connect to the RMAN, it will not work because it will say control file does not exist. If I now try to say, let's try to see, select open mode from $V database. Let's try to see this particular command. Let's see if it gives us. and it says, but it will initially it will say this, but I would say that sooner or later your database will crash. So we need to fix this particular problem, and I have already told you shut immediate will not work. So let's go for shut abort, and what we are going to do, we are going to now we will, what we need to do, we have deleted both the control files, and we can't copy, so we can't use the first method, like simply copying. So we'll have to start our database in the no mount mode. So let's go to the RMAN. Let's actually exit, clear, and we will do everything in RMAN. So first thing we'll do is we'll start our database in the no mount mode. Then we'll say restore control file from. So we need to know where we stored our backups. So that's why that's why we needed the fourth session. So let's go open the fourth session, and let's take a look at where was our ls minus lrt. Let's take the latest control file auto backup. Let's take this, put it here, and the commands that we will follow are pretty simple. So we will start the database in no mount, which I have already done. Restore control file from control file auto backup. Mount the database, recover the database, open database in reset logs mode. So let's do this one by one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is restore control file from this. And now I want to tell you one thing. When I run this particular command, you can see that right now there is absolutely no control file here. And when I say restore control file, it's going to exactly create two control files for us, control01 and control02. And the reason why it's going to create two control files for us is because in our init parameter file, we got that control files defined as two control files. So in the init parameter file, we have got that defined as, let me actually show it to you. So if I go to here and if I say vi, you can see here a control file 01, control file 02. So it's going to exactly at this location is going to restore this control file. We don't have to even specify where to restore. We just have to say restore control file from the which control file auto backup. So let's take this command and let's go to the RMAN, and we are going to run this simple command. So we'll go to RMAN. So we have started the database in the no mount mode. So we are going to say restore control file from the auto backup, and it is going to restore. You can see it restored control01, control02. Let's go here. Let's go here actually, and here we got that control file was not there. Now we got control01 and control02. So the control file has been restored. The next part is we have to start the database in the mount mode. So let's start the database in the mount mode. Then we have to recover the database. Let's give it a minute for that's done. We have to recover the database. That's done. We have to open the database in the reset logs mode. Let's try to just say alter database open. Let's see. And you can see it says we have to open the database in reset logs mode. So let's open the database in reset logs mode, and then we will verify whether the database is opened successfully in the read write mode. Yes, and we can quit from the RMAN session. So that looks good. So we have successfully, so the commands that we used, restore the control file, mount the database, recover the database, open the database in reset logs mode, open, verify the database is open. Now, remember to take one backup here as we have done the reset logs. Since we have done the reset logs, just initiate one backup for safety. So let's try to take the one good backup. So every time you do the reset logs, it is always better to take one full backup. So let's wait for the backup to complete. So the backup should complete in any time from now. Yeah. So and that looks good. Okay, so that looks good. So we have taken the backup. And why we took the backup? Because we did the reset logs mode. So now let's think of a scenario when all control files are lost. So this is the third scenario, when all control files are lost and control file backup is not present. In this case, we'll have to recreate the control file. We have to recreate the control file. Now I told you when we do this, all of our backup information is gone. So now if I run list backup command, you can see we are getting the backup information. We are getting this backup information. And if I can run the same query here, like, what backups I have got here, etc. and all this stuff. So you can see we got all of the backup information. Now the control file, so because we lost our control file, So let's then what will we don't have the backup. So what we are going to do, we are going to recreate the control file. So let's see how that works now. So what I'm going to do for that, now again I'm going to delete both of the control files. So let's delete here this and this, and again the database will crash. I don't want to show it to you, so let's actually just shut down the database. It doesn't matter, it's anyway going to crash, so shut down the database. And what we are going to do, we are going to remove both of these control files. So now what here, let's see what exactly happens, what message we get while we, and you can see anyway it would have crashed. So what we are going to do, we have removed both of the control files. I'll show it to you. So no control file present. So, and think that we have the backup, but think that we don't have the backup. So this is the third scenario. So the method that we'll have to do here is like we'll have to recreate the control file. How do you create the control file? So to create the control file, you have to have a create. So you'll have to use something like this. So this, you can see, this is a create control file statement. This is a plain SQL file. And we will use this, we'll start our database in the no mount mode, and we will run this particular statement. And in this particular control file, create control file statement, you have to specify where is your data files, where is your redo logs, what is your character set, etc. Whether you are running the database in Archivelog mode, etc., etc. So you'll have to put this in your create control file section. And that is why it is very important to know, you should always remember where you have kept your redo logs, where you have kept your data files, what is your character set. So all of this information should be present. Now if you use the recovery catalog, it helps you. So recovery catalog is one of the feature where it helps you to get all of this information from the recovery catalog, because recovery catalog has the database information. But if you don't use the recovery catalog, you will have to do the best guess. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just go to this, and I'm going to say vi create control file. I'm going to put this statement in that particular file. That's done. And that once I've placed that, let's start the database in the no mount mode. So let's connect as SQL plus SHDBA. Start the database in no mount mode. Now, one of the things that I want to highlight, it did not properly shut abort. So let's do shut abort. Give it a few minutes. Exit, clear, startup no mount, and this time it should go through fine. And remember one thing, I want to tell you something. If I say select open mode from VDollar database here, it will say not mounted. It will say not mounted, database not mounted. Now, when you create the control file, automatically the database will go into the, when you use this create control file, automatically the database will go into the mount mode. So you can see control file created, and I'll run exactly same query, and you can see now the database is in the mount state. So the create control file, although in the create control file we have not mentioned that it should go to the mount mode. That's how the database works. So now the control file has been created. So now what we need to do, we have to recover database using backup control file. So we have to run this particular command in the SQL plus. So we'll run this particular command, recover database using backup control file. Here it says which logs to apply. We'll try to apply auto logs. Whatever logs are available, we'll apply those. And once that is done, we will switch to RMAN. So we'll go to RMAN, clear, and what we are going to do now is we are going to say recover database. And that looks good. And now what we are going to say, alter, we are going to open the database in reset logs mode. So give it a few seconds. And finally, we will verify if our database is open. So select open mode from the VDollar database. And now, as I mentioned, if I run list backup command, you should see that we don't have any backups. This is so literally what has exactly happened. Now, one option that we have here is we can catalog the old backups, but the best thing to do in this particular scenario is you should actually take one fresh backup. So that is your best scenario in this. You can always catalog that old information, but in this particular scenario, you should always, what you should do is you should actually take the full backup of your database whenever you do this. And I also want to show you something. Now, if you remember, I actually set many parameters. The show all, remember in the beginning we saw the show all parameters. And if I now run this, you can see all of those parameters. And actually, I want to show it to you here. So I think that's gone. Let me actually open another session and let's show it to you. So if you remember, whatever parameters that we set, the non-default parameters, those parameters we actually got in the, in this particular view. Let's see what we get here. And you can see we literally this is giving, remember we got 5 to 6 parameters, but now it's giving 0, which means that whatever changes that we have done, those changes are all gone. And the reason for that is because we recreated the control file, fresh control file, and that control file does not have that information. So that, I set the control file auto backup format, I set the channel, etc, etc. So what we'll do, we will fix that particular issue. So the control file is already on. So I'm going to just take this. So I'm going to fix all of these particular parameters. So this is the first parameter. The second parameter is I'm going to save control file auto backup format. So I'm going to take that. So I'm going to fix that as well. I'm going to say I want to take the compressed backup. So let's fix that as well. I want to allocate a channel, default channel. So let's fix that as well. And let me put the snapshot control file in a different location. Now that I have set all of these particular parameters, let's verify. So here the view gave us 0 records. Now if I'm not wrong, I modified exactly how many? 5 parameters, which means I should get 5 rows. So let's verify. So you can see I got 5 rows because I modified 5 parameters. So that looks good. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say show all. Anyway, I verified it using that, but you can see show all. Now, whatever changes that we have done is all good. We don't have to bounce anything and all that stuff. We don't have to restart the database. These parameters can be changed on the fly. So that looks good. So now that we have taken, we have recreated the control file. Let's always better to take one backup. So we are going to take the backup database plus Archivelog. So we are going to take one full backup at this moment. So this was the 3 scenarios on the control file. When one control file is lost, copy the control file. When all control files are lost, but the backup is there, you can restore it from the control file. If all control files are lost and the backup is not there, we have to recreate the control file. So that's the third option. Now that we have seen the control file, let's go to the redo logs. Let's go to the redo logs. The redo log, what is redo log? Redo log consists of 2 or more pre-allocated files that store all changes made to the database as they occur. Redo log is the most crucial structure for recovery operations of the Oracle database. It's one of the most crucial structure. It's not a heart. Control file is the heart. Redo log is not a heart, but it is one of the most crucial structure for the recovery operation. If as I mentioned, if the control file is lost, even if you have 2 control files and one control file is lost, your database will crash. If let's say in this case redo log, you have 2 redo log members and one of the redo log is deleted, neither your database will crash, neither it will complain. Although you will see an entry in the alert log that it is not there, but the database will not crash. So the database will function properly. So it is crucial, but it is not the heart. If it is, so remember that. But redo log is very important for your recovery operation of your Oracle database. So what this redo log contains? Redo log contains redo records or redo entries. Redo entries records that data that you can use to reconstruct all changes made to the database. So it actually records, this redo entries is nothing but the entries which are used to reconstruct all changes made to the database, including the undo segments. Therefore, redo log also protects the rollback data. So it not only to reconstruct, it also allows you to undo rollback. When you recover the database using redo data, the database reads the change vectors in the redo records and applies the changes to the relevant blocks. So it basically, whenever you recover, it will read that redo records and it will apply those changes. So if you have committed the transactions, those transactions it will apply to the database. So let's say if they were not committed in the data file, it will apply those changes. Now remember, I mentioned here redo log consists of 2 or more. Database requires minimum of 2 files to guarantee. So you need 2 redo log files. One is always available for writing while the other is being archived if the database is in archive mode. So if let's say you have 2 redo logs, then what will happen? It will write to one and the second is being archived if it is in the archive mode. If it is not in the archive mode, it will stay there. Nothing will happen. So remember, it will not write to all the redo log files together. So I'll just give you a little bit more on this. So the redo log file, there is two concepts here. One is redo log file, a member, and redo log group. A redo log file, let me actually show you a diagram. So you can see here, you can have, these are the groups. Groups are logical. So these are the logical groups. So you can have minimum, you need to have two groups. You need to have two groups. 3 or more is better. You can have 5, 6, you can have more than 2, but 2 groups minimum. You cannot have only one redo log group. And each redo log group should have at least one redo log member. So 2 minimum groups and each group should have one member. Let me repeat, 2 minimum groups. So you should have either 1 and 2, and you should have one member each group. So minimum. And again, you can have more than one member. So you can have 2 members, 3 members, 4 members, etc. Now, what is this member? This particular member is exact copy. So this particular 1 and 2 is part of this redo log group, and this, whatever is there in this member 1, it is there exactly the same in the member 2. Similarly, this member 1 and member 2 is copy. This member is different than this member. This is the member of this group, remember. So we have, in this particular scenario, we have this particular diagram. According to this particular diagram, we have 3 redo log groups. So 1, 2, 3, these are the 3 redo log groups, and each group has got 2 files. So total of 6 redo log members. So redo log files, you can call it as a member or a file. So we got 6 files or 6 members and 3 redo log groups. Now let me explain this. So redo log file is a member of a redo log group. So redo log file is a member of redo log group, and each group can have multiple members. Each member within a group stores a copy of redo data, providing redundancy. So and protecting against data loss if one member becomes unavailable. So if one of these member is gone, you have still another member because it's an exact copy. So so let's say member 1 is gone, member 2, and if, as I mentioned, if one of the member is gone, nothing will happen. Your database will not crash. Database will still work. You will get a message in the alert log that one of the member is gone, but database will not crash. And this particular, so that's why I'm saying it's a crucial, but it's not a hard. Remember that. Now, each member within a group stores a copy of redo data. So one member is gone, you still have the second member. Now let's understand redo log groups. So redo log groups are logical units. So these are logical. And database can have multiple groups. Database should have minimum 2 redo log groups. Redo log files are part of redo log group. So redo log files are part of redo log group that contain same redo data. So these are members are part of this group and they contain same data. Now remember, this and this will have different data. So only the members of the same redo log group will have the same data. Each redo log group should have minimum 1 member. 2 or more are recommended. Each redo log group should have minimum 1 member. 2 or more are recommended. Now, so how actually Oracle database writes to redo log? So actually the log writer is the one which writes to redo log files in a circular fashion. So it will do, it will write to redo log group 1, redo log group 2, redo log group 3. At any point in time, only one redo log group will be current. Current is the one where the Oracle database is writing. So wherever it is, it will not write to, it will not write to 1, 2 and 3 simultaneously. It will write to either one of these groups. So it can write to either group 1, group 2 or group 3. And if let's say redo log group 1 is current, then it's going to write to both the members at the same time. So it's going to write to member 1 and member 2 at the same time. So it will write to both of this. That's why they are going to have this same copy. So they are actually going to have the same data. So the log writer writes to the redo log in a circular fashion. So circular fashion means it will write to 1, then 2, then 3, then 1, 2, 3. It will keep on doing this. When the current redo log fills, log writer begins writing to the next available redo log file. So if this redo log group is full, it will go to 2. If this is full, it will go to 3. When the last available redo log file is filled, LGWR returns to the first. So what it will do, it will go to first, then it will go to 2, then it will go to 3. Then once this is done, it will go back to 1. So this is what is explained here. Now, when filled redo log, remember one thing, like redo log group 1, let's say redo log group 1 is full, which means that it will go to write to redo log group 2. However, it cannot write to redo log group 2 if whatever changes which were made in redo log group 2 are not written to the data file. So that is one of the important criteria. So you remember one thing, log writer can write to redo log group 2 only when these particular changes are written to the data file. And if the database was in archiving mode, then that particular redo log files should also be archived. So there are two conditions. If it is in no archiving mode, it should only, the redo log group, whatever data is there in that particular group, has to be written to the data file. If it is not in the archiving mode, then that particular data, if it is not in the archiving mode, it has to write to the data file only. If it is in the archiving mode, it has to write to the data file, plus it has to archive both of these members. So remember that. So let me explain that. So if the filled redo log files are available to log writer for reuse depending on whether archiving is enabled. If the archiving is disabled, filled redo log file is available only after changes have been written to the data files. If archiving is enabled, Archivelog mode, then filled redo log file is available to log writer after the changes recorded in it have been written to data files and files has been archived. So remember this particular thing. So in the Archivelog mode, the changes has to be written to the data files. Also, the files has to be archived. Now, there is a concept called current, active and inactive redo log files. So what is this concept? So as I mentioned that at any point in time, it can only write to one group. The group that it is writing to at that point is called current redo log group. Then there is a active and inactive. So let's say Oracle database uses only one redo log file group at a time to store redo records written from the redo log buffer. Redo log file that LGWR is actively writing is called current redo log file. Redo log files that are required for instance recovery are called active. So these are the redo log files which are required for instance recovery. It is not writing, but those are required for the instance recovery. Those are called active redo log files. Redo log files that are no longer required for instance recovery are called inactive redo log files. So that is current, active and inactive. Now, we need to also understand the concept of log switch. Log switch is the point at which database stops writing to one redo log file and begins writing to another. So log switch is the point at which the database stops writing to one redo log file and begins writing to another. Log switch occurs when the current redo log file is completely filled and writing continued to the next redo log file. So log switch, whenever it stops writing to one redo log files and begins writing to another, that is concept of log switch. And log switch occurs when the current redo log file is completely filled and it should write to the next one. Now, this happens in the background. You don't have to worry about log switches and all that stuff. It happens in the background. Oracle database takes care of it. But you can also manually do this using alter system switch log file, where you can switch the log file manually. Now, the labs that we'll cover here, these are the scenarios. One redo log file is lost. So in this particular case, only one member is lost. What if this particular one member is lost? We'll have to clear that particular redo log group. We just have to clear that redo log group. Once we clear that redo log group, that particular member will automatically get created. That is the scenario one. The second scenario is entire current redo log group is lost. So this is the current redo log group. So it was writing to this current redo log group and that current redo log group is lost. Now that particular scenario depends on whether that particular redo log group was required for crash recovery or not. So if it was not required for crash recovery, we'll just clear the Archivelog, but we'll have to use another term and which I will show you. And the final scenario, entire current redo log group is lost and it was required for crash recovery. This is a dangerous situation. You should never go into this, because this one can result in a data loss. In this case, backup is required. For all of these two scenarios, backup is not required. In this case, backup is required and you have to do the point in time recovery. So let's see how these scenarios work. So if you have one member is lost, then you will switch the log file, you will do the checkpoint and you will say alter database clear log file. Whatever log file your member is lost, you will just clear that particular log file. So this particular command will automatically fix the problem. The If you have all members are lost but instance is up and running, so instance has not been crashed, then you can use exactly same command, but you have to use another keyword, clear unarchive log file group 2. So here that is a number, you have to change this. So alter system switch log file, alter system checkpoint, and you'll clear. And let's say if that particular log file was required for the instance and the instance is crashed, and if that redo log group was required for crash recovery, then you will have to perform the point in time recovery. So remember that, and what you will do, set until time, restore database, recover database. So let's see all of these three scenarios. Let's go to our lab, and what we are going to do, we are going to see all of these three scenarios. So let's proceed with the first scenario. Redo log member is lost. One of the redo log member is lost. So before I do that, let me actually show you how my database is set up. So $log, as I told you, there are three redo log groups. Here there are three redo log group 1, 2, and 3. So you can see that there are three groups, and you can see here each redo log group, it says there are 2 members, which means that we have got total of 6 redo log files. If you remember the diagram, here you can see there are 3 redo log groups 1, 2, 3, and each one has got 2 each, which means total 2 into 3, 6. So we got total 6. So we should get, when I run a $, so $log is a redo log group, $log file is a redo log member. So when I run this, I should get exactly 6 rows. So you can see we got 6 rows. And here, if I show you to the database, if I do ls-l, you can see. Now, I've stored all the redo log groups on the same disk. Ideally, you should save it on a different mount points or different disk. Now, so 1A, 1B belongs to redo log group 1, 2A, 2B belongs to redo log group 2, 3A, 3B belongs to redo log group 3. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run something like similar query on my database so that you can see this here. So let me connect to the database. And let me run this, and you can see we got inactive. So as I told you, there are three modes. One is inactive, active, and current. Current is the one which it is writing to. Active is required for the instance recovery. Inactive is not required. So, and you can see we got inactive, which is this, that means that this particular redo log group is not required. Active is the one which is required for the instance recovery, and current is the one which is it is writing to. So this is the current one. So I'll modify this particular query to just show me what is the current redo log group. So what is the current redo log group? And the current redo log group is 3A, 3B. So we got that information here. So let me put it here, and we got that information. Just 1 minute. And we got the current redo log group as 3. Now, as I told you, there is a command called alter system. The log group switches will happen behind the scene, but we can say alter system switch log file. We can say this particular command. So let me run this particular command, and what will happen? It will go to the current 03 will no longer be current. The 01 will be current. So let's run this, and now if I run exactly same query, you will be able to see 03 is no longer current. Actually, the current is 01. So you can see from 03, it became, the current became, so this is what I was talking about. From 3, it became 1 because it is going in this direction. Now, if I do again switch, it will go to 2. It will go to 2. Let's try that. So let's do this switch log file. And once we do the switch log file, let's verify and take a look at this. And you can see now the 2 is current. So now if I do it again, it will go to 3. Now if I do it again, it will go to 1 again. So that's how it works. So and remember that if one of this redo log member is gone, then we can recover it easy. We just have to copy we just have to clear it. And if it was required, if it was not archived, then we have to unarchive it. But if both of these are gone and it was required for the instance recovery, then we have to do the restore of the database. So let's do one thing. Let's run some transactions behind the scene. Let's run some transactions behind the scene. So let me exit. Let me clear, and let's run some transactions behind the scenes. So I'm running some transactions on the database. So here it will show you which database it's connected to. Let's see if it shows all of that. Current database is RMAN, so it's connected to that database. And you know what is the current redo log group? Current redo log group is 3A and 3B. So that's the current redo log. It's doing some transaction behind the scene. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually delete one of the redo log group. So I'm just going to delete one of the redo log file. So let's try 3A or 3B. Either one is fine. So I'm going to just take this and I'm going to delete this. Now, if I do this, you can see there were 6 files here. 1, 2, 3. And if I do this now, you can see there are only 5 files. 3A does not have 3B. So 3A was that 3B because we have deleted 3B. Now the instance will keep on running. So there won't happen and nothing will happen. Instance will keep on running. Now what we are going to do, we are going to go to the RMAN target. And we'll see if there is any failure. Let's see if Oracle has identified that particular failure. So let's say list failure. Let's see if Oracle has identified that particular failure. It says no failure found. Actually, we have deleted the redo log file, but probably the Oracle has not yet found that particular failure. So what we are going to do, we are going to switch the log file. So let's try to switch the log file, and let's do the checkpoint. Let's do these two things. And then once the checkpoint has completed, let's wait for the checkpoint to complete. And once the checkpoint has completed, let's go to the RMAN session and run the list failure again. So let's give it a few seconds and let's see. I don't have the patience, but yeah, you can see that we got a message. The priority is high, status is open, and you can see one of the member is missing. So what we are going to do to fix this, we have a very simple one-line command, and the command is basically alter database clear log file group 1. So this is the command that we are going to run. So this particular command, let me clear this particular screen. So this particular command is automatically going to recreate this particular redo log group, so redo log member. So we don't have to do anything. It will automatically recreate that. And you can see, let me actually do something like this: host clear and let me say list failure, and you can see we have got online log member is missing. So that's a failure that we got. It's open. So what we are going to do, we are going to fix that. So let's say host clear, and what we are going to do, we are going to say alter database clear log file group 1. Now the member that was deleted was from the log file group 3. So that's what was missing. So we have to clear the log file group 3. So let's do that. And we cannot clear a current log file group. Remember that we cannot clear a current log group. So we are going to clear the log file group 3. That's done. Let's see the magic. Automatically you will see the 3B got created. So 3B got created. So that fixed that particular error. And you will also notice that the list failure no longer shows the failure. So you can see no failures found in the specification. We fixed that particular problem. Oracle has identified that particular problem is gone, and it is deleted this particular entry from the failures database, which is good. So we fixed this particular problem. So this was the simplest method of clearing the log file group, and that way we fixed that particular problem. So that was the first scenario where we lost one of the redo log member, and all that we did is we said clear log file. So we changed that log file to 3 because that was the member. So, and we fixed that particular problem. Now what we are going to do, we are going to delete both of the log file members. So whatever is the current one. So let's see what is the current one actually. So we can run that particular query. We can run it in the SQL Plus, or we can run it here also. So we'll take this and we'll see what is the current one. So first command that the script first command it does, it is going to switch the log file. So the 2 will become the current. So the first thing that it does is it switches the log file. So let's run that same command again. So we have initiated this command, and as I told you, the first thing that it will do, it will switch the log file group. I've set it like that. So let's check now. It actually switched to 3 for some reason. So yeah, so that's fine. So the 3 is current now. So what we are going to do now, in the previous scenario, we deleted only one. Now we are going to delete both. Okay. So let's delete both of these members. So 3A, 3B. So we are going to delete both of these members. So let's delete it. So I'm now going to show you that it's gone. So you can see now we have 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and we don't have the 3A, 3B. Both of these redo logs have been deleted and the transaction is still running. Now, if the instance does not crash, and if the instance is running, so you can see the transaction got completed, which is all good. So if the instance is still running, and you can see the redo lock is still not there. So now if I try to use this particular solution, the alter database clear log file group 3, it will not work. So let's actually find out. Let's say if the list failure has identified, and you can see it has still not identified, which is okay. So we are going to fix that particular problem. So let's clear the screen. It will identify sooner or later, it will identify. So what we are going to do now, we have deleted both of this particular file. So what we are going to do, we are going to switch the log file, and we are going to checkpoint the system, and we are going to verify if we have any failure in the system. So let's give it a minute, and you can see now we got a critical failure. No, previously it was a high because only one member was missing. Now we got a critical failure. And why this is critical? Because both of the members are gone. So here, this is the scenario. So both of the members of redo log group 3 are gone. And because the both of the members are gone, that Oracle treats it as a critical, and it is actually a critical scenario. So luckily, instance has not crashed. So what we are going to do now, we'll try to use the same command. So we'll say clear log file group 3, and that will not work. That one will not work. And the reason for that is because this particular log file group was deleted before even the archived. It was not even archived. And that is the reason why this will not work. So what we are going to do, we are going to try it, and I know that for sure that it won't work, and you will see, and you can see log 3 needs to be archived. So it needs to be archived, which means that this will not work. And we are taking a risk here by modifying this command, and we are saying alter database clear unarchived. So we are using this second method here. So this particular command did not work. We are using this unarchived, and we are clearing this particular log group 3, and we are taking this particular risk. Now remember one thing, let me just show it to you. So ls-l redo, you can see there are only 4 redo log groups. List failure still shows that there is a failure. So let me just clear this, and we are going to fix this particular problem. Let's say list failure, and we should see that those 2 is still there, failure is still there. These are only 2 members. And now what we are going to do, we tried the clearing, it did not work. We tried clearing, we are going to use the unarchived log file group 3. This should fix it. So let's give it a try. So let's give it a try. Database altered. Let's verify if there is any failure. List failure, and looks like there is no failure. And let's take a look at whether that archive log got created. We did not have 3A, 3B, and yes, we got 3A, 3B automatically created. Now this, because we cleared the unarchived log file, take a full backup at this moment, because this one we have actually, those archive logs files were deleted even before getting archived. So take a full backup at this scenario. So let's wait for the backup to complete. So yeah, so backup is almost about to be done. Yeah, and the backup got completed. So this was the second scenario where both of the archive log got lost, but the instance was up and running. We fixed it by clearing the unarchived log group. The third scenario, both the current redo log group is lost, and those are lost before archival, and instance is crashed. And those redo log group was required for the crash recovery. In this case, you have to do the point in time recovery. Let's see that particular scenario as well. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll initiate a transaction. So let's initiate a transaction. And we have initiated the transaction. Let's see what it says. The 2A and 2B is the current redo log group right now. So let's verify that. So 2A and 2B is the current one. So that looks good. And what we are going to do, we are going to delete both 2A and 2B, the current redo log groups we are going to delete. So let's delete both 2A and 2B. Let's take this, and before deleting, let's actually show it to you that we have all the archive logs, and we are going to delete 2A and 2B. So let's do that. So that's done. And now if I go back to that screen, and if I do this, you can see 2A and 2B is deleted, and the transaction is still running. And what we are going to do, we will shut about our database. So we are going to shut about our database. So that's done. So we have shut about our database. Now, this is a very, very bad scenario. Our database will not start now. Our database will simply not start. So I'm going to show it to you. So what we are going to do now, we'll try to let me clear the screen, and let's try this, and we'll say startup, and our database will not start at all. And the reason for that is we have two missing Redolog members, and both of the same Redolog group, and that was actually a current Redolog group, and that, if I'm not wrong, would be required for the crash recovery. You can see 2B 2A is missing. So because of that, let's actually go back to RMAN and let's see if it identifies any failure. So let's take a look at this list failure, and you can see log online log group 2 is unavailable. Yes, that's the one which we have deleted, the online log group 2. We have deleted that, and it is saying that it is not available. So it has identified that particular failure. Now what we used two methods to fix this particular problem. So we used the clear log file group 2, and we used this. So let's try fixing by using first method. So let's try this, and I know for sure it won't work. So, but let's give it a try, and let's press enter, and you can see log 2 needed for crash recovery. So the clear is not working. Let's give a try the second option, the unarchived. So the second option that we worked, and that is also not working. So at this moment, we have no choice apart from restoring our database from the backup. Now, if I try to run a query on, the backup files, I won't know where is my backup files, because it needs the VDOL backup files. The database is not open, so you cannot even read from this. So this is where you need to know where you are storing your backups, etc., etc. So I know that I know that particular location. So let's go to that particular location where I've stored my backups. So cd backup /oracle/aura19b. Let's verify what is the last backup that we got. So we got up to 1540. So we got something up to 1540. So we'll take this 1540. So we'll take this 1540, and we will try to do the point in time recovery. And we will try to see if we have any better. That was the last backup. Let's see what was the last archive log that we had. Oh, we have one archive log at 1541. So we'll try 1541 because we have an archive log up to 1541. So we'll go up to 1541. We'll give a try for that one. So what we are going to do, we'll try 1541. We'll try this, and we are going to do so list failure says that we have the failure. We have already seen that, and we cannot start our database. We tried clearing it. We tried clearing unarchived. That does not work. So let's try this. So we'll try to do this restore and give it a time. So so it's what I did not do is I did not change the date here. So this is 610. So I need to change this as well. So let's do that. And let's take this and let's put it here and give it a few seconds. I've initiated the restore. So give it a few seconds. And that looks good. It has done the recovery. Let's start the database in reset logs mode. And let's verify if our database is in the open mode. So let's give it a minute and let's run this command. I don't have the patience. And yes, you can see we have started the database. Now let's exit and let's verify that our database is really started. Let's clear the screen. And let's verify. Oh God. And yes, we can see our database. So we have successfully fixed that particular problem. And the way we had to do is we had to do the point in time recovery. So we did a point in time recovery. We checked what was the latest archive log backup that we had, and we took that particular time and we used that particular time to restore our database. So that was the way we fixed. So we learned three different scenarios here. If the one member is lost, just clear it. If it is lost, not required, unarchive it. And if it is all is lost, but it was required for crash recovery, that is a dangerous situation. Remember that in this particular situation, you might have some kind of data loss. Now that we have seen the log groups, it's time to move to tablespace data files, the last section of this particular tutorial. There is a database level recovery also at the end, but let's do this now. So the tablespace data file. So what are the tablespaces? Tablespace is a logical and data file is a physical structure. Tablespace is made of one or more data files. Oracle database consists of minimum a system tablespace, sysOC tablespace, temp tablespace, undo tablespace, one or more users application data tablespace. So you must have system, you must have sysOC is not mandatory, but it must have it, temp, undo, and one or more. Now, the tablespace is a logical while the data file is physical. So behind the tablespace, each tablespace will have one or more data files. So you can have multiple data files for system, multiple for sysOC. So I've not shown it here, but you can have more than one data file for system, more than one data file for sysOC, etc. So you can have, so system tablespace will have system data file, sysOC will have sysOC data file, temp will have temp file, undo will have undo data file, users tablespace, if you have users tablespace, you can have data file 1, data file 2, data file 3, etc. So you can have more than one data file. Now, each and every tablespace, even the temp file can have more than one temp file, undo can have more than one. So I have not shown it again, but you can have more than one data file. Now, this is a logical, this is a physical, remember that. What is the system tablespace? System tablespace is automatically created at the time of database creation. Every Oracle database has a system tablespace. System tablespace stores database's metadata. It contains the data dictionary which holds information about all objects in the database. System tablespace is always online when the database is open. You cannot take the system tablespace offline. Remember, you cannot take the system tablespace offline. It has to be always online. You cannot rename or drop the system tablespace. Neither you can rename it, neither you can drop it. Now, while the system tablespace can technically store user data, is not recommended. So remember, system tablespace can store user data. Like you can have the application tables or user tables in the system tablespace, provided there is a permission, but it is not recommended. System tablespace can be restored only in the mount mode, which means that you need to have a downtime. What is the sysOC tablespace? sysOC tablespace is an auxiliary tablespace. That's why name is sysOC. sysOC tablespace is also created when you create the database. If the sysOC tablespace becomes unavailable, core database functionality will remain operational. The database features that use sysOC tablespace could fail or function with limited capability. So remember one thing. So if the sysOC tablespace is lost, the database will still function. However, some features which depend on sysOC will not work. You can restore sysOC tablespace like any other tablespace. You don't need to have the mount mode. You don't have to restart the database. You can restore it while the database is up and running. Undo tablespace. Undo tablespace is specifically designed to contain undo records. These are records generated by the database that are used to roll back or undo changes to the database for recovery, read consistency, or as requested by a rollback statement. Undo records are used to roll back transactions when a rollback statement is issued, recover the database, provide read consistency. Remember, it is also used for flashback options, which I have not mentioned here, but it is also used for flashback query or flashback. You need to see what was the table data at the particular point in time. You can use flashback query, etc., etc. So that is also used, but I have not mentioned it here. So undo records. Remember these 3 points. It is used for rollback when the rollback is used. It is also required in the recovery of the database, and it provides the read consistency. Let's understand this. So when a rollback statement is issued, undo records are used to undo changes that were made to the database by the uncommitted transaction. That's where it will use. So if let's say you inserted some records or updated some records and you decided to, instead of commit, you decided to roll back, undo will be used to revert those changes. Now, during the database recovery, so recover the database, undo records are used to undo any uncommitted. So let's say the database crashed while the transactions were made. Neither they got committed, neither they got rolled back, which means they are there on the data file. So when you recover the database undo record, it will read the undo records and it will undo any uncommitted changes. Now, undo records provide read consistency by maintaining the before image of the data for users who are accessing the data at same point. So basically, if let's say 2 users are reading the data and one person has run a select query and he has not got the output or is still getting the output, and other person is updating the same records, the first person should not see the records which are getting updated, because that update is happening later after he ran the query, which means the first person should get the same data. So that's why the read consistency concept comes into the picture, and undo provides that particular feature. So read consistency undo will provide so that it will capture that before image, and the first user who ran the select query before, unless until the second user does not commit, should get the exactly same data which was before the commit. So remember that three things: rollback when rollback is issued, recover the database if uncommitted transactions are there, it will recover them, and provide read consistency that one user should not see the uncommitted transactions. Undo tablespace is also considered as a critical tablespace. You can create more than one undo tablespace, but only one of them can be active at any one time. So your Oracle database can have more than one undo tablespace, but only one of them will be active at any one time. So remember that is also very important. Now that we have seen undo tablespace, last is temp tablespace. Temp tablespace is a transient data. It contains transient data that persists only for the duration of the session. Temporary tablespace can improve the concurrency of multiple sort operations that do not fit in the memory. So it can improve the concurrency of multiple. Temporary tablespace are used to store the following: intermediate sort results, temporary tables and temporary indexes, temporary lobs, temporary bit reads. Now remember, by default, a single temporary tablespace named temp is created for each new Oracle database. You can create additional temporary tablespace. Now you can create additional temporary tablespace. You can assign temporary tablespace to each database user with a create. So when you create a user, or afterwards using the alter user, you can specify different tablespace. So let's say I have 5 temporary tablespace and I've got 5 users. Each user can have different temporary tablespace. One temporary tablespace will be at the default level. So if I don't specify, then it will take the default temporary tablespace. But I can, and while creating the user also I can specify it, or after user is created, I can use the alter user to change the default temporary tablespace. I can change the temporary tablespace for that particular user. Also, you don't have to have multiple temporary tablespace. You can have only one single temporary tablespace, and all the users can share the same table. So here is the last point: a single temporary tablespace can be shared by multiple users. Temp tablespaces are not backed up. They are not backed up, so RMAN does not back up the temporary tablespace. Now that we have seen everything, let's see the labs that we are going to do here. So here we are going to see how to recover the system data file, how to recover the undo tablespace. Now these two we need to, the downtime is required, and basically accept the temp tablespace. For all you need to have the backup, and only for the temp table you can't take the backup of the temp tablespace. That is important. And for all of these others, the downtime is for only for the system and undo you need the downtime, and temp tablespace there is no backup, easy to recover. Basically you don't recover it, you recreate it. And users tablespace, that's a non-critical, backup is required, easy to recover because, and that is no downtime required. So let's see each and every scenario. So if you lost the system tablespace, if you then start the database in the mount mode, so start the database mount mode, restore data file 1, recover data file 1. This particular command assumes that you have only one data file for the temp space, and the first data file for the system table space, and the first data file is always your system table space. Now if this is not, if you don't want to do this, you can use this restore data file 1 or recover data file 1. This is also, or this particular, you can specify the name of the data file. So instead of data file ID, you can specify the data file name, and then you can recover it. Or you can actually use the tablespace level clause. You can say restore tablespace system, recover tablespace. All of these commands will produce exactly same effect. Now, if you want to restore the undo tablespace, you have to again start the database in mount mode, restore the undo tablespace. So here I use the restore data file 1. Here I'm going to say restore tablespace, undo tablespace 1, restore tablespace, undo tablespace 1. So recover tablespace. So we'll start the database and then we'll finally open the database. Now restore temp tablespace. Now temp tablespace is actually, you don't restore it because RMAN does not take the backup. So remember one thing, every time if the temp data file is lost, like temp file is lost, it's not called data file, it's called temp file. If temp file is lost, then you just have to restart the database. Every time the database gets restarted, the Oracle database will automatically recreate. So just restart your database. Now, but I would ask you a question, do you really need to bounce the database just to recreate the temp file? Not required really. So that is another method, which is method 2. All that you do is add new temp file and drop existing temp file. So we will use alter tablespace temp, add temp file. So we'll add a new temp file and we'll drop the existing temp file. Now remember one thing, if there are any existing transactions using the temp file to be deleted, then those transactions need to be killed, because otherwise it will not allow you to drop that particular temp file. So if any of the existing transactions are running which were using that particular temp file which is deleted, it will not, it will still continue to hold the log. So you need to terminate those transactions. So that's how you will restore the temp space. And to restore the user's table space, you don't need to you don't have to bounce the database and etc. But remember that if the database is down, if the database crashed, then what you have to do, you have to offline the data file in the mount mode. You can open the database and restore the data and recover the table space or data file and online the data file. So this is what you will do. Just one minute. So let me make it a little bit big. Yeah. So if the database is down, offline the data file in the mount mode, open the database, restore and recover, and online the data file. So let's say, so first you will use alter database data file and offline it. Then you can open the database. Then you will restore the table space. And here, instead of users table space, I used table space called TS1. You could use table space user, any user's table space. And then you will finally, once the recovery is completed, you will bring that particular data file online. So now that we have seen all the 4 scenarios, let's begin with first, which is the system data file. So let's begin with the system data file. Yeah. So what we'll do, the first scenario, we will delete the system data file and we'll try to recover that. So let's begin. So what I'll do, I'll try one transactions on that particular database, Aura 19D. I'm trying transactions on Aura 19D. Let's see if here it says any database name, and you can see current database is Aura 19D. So we are connected to that particular database. A transaction is running in the behind the scene. So while the transaction is running, what we are going to do, we are going to connect to the database. So let's connect to the database. And let's say show con name. Let's see which database I am. And you can see I'm in Aura 90D, and I'm going to delete this particular transactions, and the transaction is still running, and I'm going to delete that particular file. So let's take this and I'm going to delete that particular file. So I've deleted the system data file. Let's verify that that particular file is gone. ls-l, and you can see we have sysocs temp undo, and we have got users. So let's actually modify this particular command just to show us the dbf files, and you can see we don't have the system data file. The transaction has errored out. You can see error in identifying the data file. So the transaction got this one. So at this moment, if I try to do the shut immediate, let's see if the RMAN has identified the failure. Let's actually verify if the RMAN has identified the failure. So let's give it a minute. So let's say list failure, and you can see it is not even telling us because it says the data file is missing. So it's not, it's unable to open that particular data file. So that is good. If I try to shut immediate, the shut immediate won't work. I don't want to waste your time. The shut immediate won't work. So I'll do the shutdown abort. That won't work. So now what we are going to do, we are going to start our database in the mount mode. So let's wait for the shut abort to complete. And that's complete. So let's clear the screen. Let's connect to our RMAN session, start up our database in the mount mode, and we will follow exactly same sequence: restore data file 1, recover data file 1, alter database open. And as I told you, any of these commands would still work. You can say restore tablespace system also, or you can say the full name of the data file. So let's do that. So let's say restore data file 1. Let's actually clear the screen. And let's say restore data file 1, and we'll verify here that you can see now we had only 5 files. Now the system data file appeared, and it's still reading from the backup image. Once the restore is done, we will do the recover data file. So give it a few seconds. It's reading from the backup image, so give it a few minutes. That's completed. Restore is completed. We will do the recover the data file. So it's give it a few seconds for the recover to complete, and then we should be able to open the database. and that looks good. Now I did not try to show you the startup. It will definitely fail because the data file was missing. So and we should be all good now. Let's see, select open mode from the PWR database. So at this moment, because we have done the recovery of the system, let's just take the backup of the archive logs. Now, this all of these commands would work. I've already explained that. So let's begin with the second scenario, restore of the undo tablespace. So let's do the undo tablespace. So let's run again. What we will do, we will run the similar transactions. While the transaction is happening, what we are going to do, we are going to delete the undo. So here we can see we got the undo. And we are going to get rid of this undo tablespace. So let's get rid of that undo. So what we are going to do, we are going to get rid of this undo. So let's go to the RMAN session and let's say list failure, and let's see if it says that there is no failure. So what we are going to do, we'll just see if the checkpoint works, and actually the Oracle has itself crashed. And the reason for that is because there is no undo tablespace, which means that it has crashed itself. Oracle not available. Now, if I try to start, let's see if I try to start, let's give it a minute. Let's see whether it works. So SQL plus, let's see. Yeah. And if it's not even, let's see what exactly happens. So let's try to give a clean shutdown. Let's see what exactly happens. And you can see we got this error, undo tablespace is not there, which means that it is not able to do the clean shutdown. So let's try doing the shut abort. That's the only option that we have left with. When the shut immediate doesn't work, we have to use the shut abort. So now what we are going to do, we will connect to the database. We will start the database in the mount mode, and we will, let's see if we get list failure. Let's see if we get the list failure, and you can see one or more non-system data files are missing. So it has identified that it's not a system data file, it's an undo data file, and that's why it is a non-system data file, but it has identified that particular failure. And here, if I try to do alter database open, it will not work. You can see that undo tablespace is missing. So what we are going to do, we are going to fix this by restoring the undo tablespace. So let's say restore tablespace, undo tablespace. So give it a few minutes for the restore to complete. And restore is completed. Let's do the recovery of that undo tablespace. So that is also completed. And then we will open the database. We should be able to open the database successfully. And that's looking good. And let's verify if our database is open. Yes, it is open. It is in the read-write mode. Now, since we have done the restore, it's always better to take one Archivelog backups. So that's done. So now what we are going to do, the final thing that we need to do is, now we will see the temp file. As I told you, if the temp file is gone, so let's verify if the temp file is there. And looks like we don't have our database doesn't have the temp file. And this happens, the reason might be because when I created the control file, I may not have created the temp file. So it might have happened. So if this happens, let's do something. Let's actually get rid of the temp file. So you can see here, it still says the temp file is there. But when I run the query here, it says that I don't have the temp file, which means that this particular temp tablespace, the temp tablespace is still there. The temp tablespace is still there. It's not like the temp tablespace is gone, but the temp file is missing. So what we are going to do now, we are going to get rid of that particular file. So let's get rid of that particular physical file. So let me actually add a temp file to this particular system. So let's do this. And what we are going to do, we are going to add a temp file to our system. Before adding, actually, let me run that select star from $temp file. Select name from $temp file. So no temp file is present. And let's add a temp file. And that's added. Now we should be having a temp file. Yes, we got the temp file. So what we are going to do now, we are just going to delete this temp file. So what the thing that I want to explain here, so the temp file is we are going to just get rid of this. So you can see that we have the temp file here. So what we are going to do, we are going to just get rid of the temp file. So the thing is, what I wanted to show you, and this is not recommended, what I wanted to show you is, you can see the temp file is gone. It was here, but it's no longer there. What I wanted to show you is, like, when you start your database, automatically the temp file will get created. So let's do the shut immediate, and let's do the startup. So let's wait for, initiate these two commands. When the database gets started, automatically the temp file will get created. So let's clear the screen. It's not there. You can see it's not there. Let's wait for the database to start. Let's wait for the database to start. Once the database is started, automatically the temp file will get created. Let's give it a few seconds. Oracle instance shutdown. Let's wait for it to start up. And the database is open. Now, if I go, so the database is successfully opened. If I do this here, you can see we got the temp file. Automatically, the temp file got created. And if I run the query, whether I have the temp file, I should have, I should have the temp file. So let's run this query, and you can see I got the temp file. So we deleted that particular temp file. You can see the temp file was gone. And when we restarted the database, automatically the temp file got created. However, just to add a temp file, do you need to rebounce the database? And I mentioned that before as well, that you don't have to do that. So what we will do, we will actually open up one more session, and we will connect as an Oracle user. So let's connect as an Oracle user. So let's connect as an Oracle user. And what this Oracle user will do, he will create, so if I say show user, you can see this user is Oracle. So what this Oracle user will do, he will create a temporary table, and he will insert some records, and he will commit and this one. So let's actually create a global temporary table. So let's create a global temporary table. So that global temporary table has been created. Let's insert some 10K records into that particular global temporary table. So let's done. And let's commit the transaction. That's done. And then finally, let's verify if we got the record. So yes, we got 10K records in that temporary table. So this is the temp table, and that is created in the temporary table space. Now, this particular Oracle user is going to hold that temporary data file. Which data file? This particular temp01. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to remove that particular file. So I'm going to remove this temp file. So let's prove that it's getting deleted. So it's here. You can see it's there. I'm going to get rid of that particular temp file. And I've deleted that. So now let's verify if it is there. And you can see the temp file is no longer present. So you have got an alert. You have identified somehow the temp file is missing. So now what you need to do to fix this particular problem, you need to actually add a new temp file, and you need to drop the existing temp file, because existing temp file is already deleted. So there is no point of having that. However, the existing temp file you will not be able to delete, because Oracle user is holding that particular temp file. So you need to kill that particular session. You need to terminate that particular session. So what we are going to do now, we are going to add a new temp file. So let's actually verify. So let's see what the temp file says. The temp file will say that we have got temp01 as a temp file. So let's verify. Yes, we got the temp01. But that particular file does not exist. So now what we are going to do, we are going to add a new temp file. So let's add a new temp file. So that's done. And now if I run select name from temp file, we should get two temp files, temp1 and temp02. Now this is physically deleted. This is physically deleted from the system. So which means that we need to drop that from the temp file, temp tablespace. So we will alter tablespace temp, drop temp file. So we need to do that. But as I mentioned, that will not work. So let's give a try, and you can see that you cannot temp, because temp file cannot be dropped at this time. And the reason for that is very simple. I know for sure this Oracle user. So what we can do, we can run this query on $temp segment usage, and we can find out which user is holding the temp, and we can get the SID and SI serial number. So let's try to get that information. So let's take this and let's run this particular query and find out. So you can see it's an Oracle user, and he 181.33.3307. So this is the query which is holding the temp, and that is the reason why we are not able to drop that particular temporary table space. So let's do one thing. Let's add that 181 here. Let's add 3307 here. let's kill that particular session. Let's actually do one thing. Let's try to drop that temp table space before trying to clear. So let me say host clear. Let me try to drop, cannot be dropped. And the reason is Oracle user is holding. Let's try to kill that particular session. Yes, we killed that particular session. Let's try to now verify. We don't have to verify that session is gone because we killed it. And now let's try to drop whatever we were not able to drop. Let's try to drop it. Yes, we dropped it. And now if I say select name from the temp table space, we should only have the temp02, temp01 should not be there. So we can see we got the temp02 and temp02 is present. The temp02 is present. So we added. So to fix that particular problem, if the temp data file is lost, to fix that particular problem, what we need to do? We just need to add a new temp file and we need to drop. Again, restarting will also help, but that will means that you are bouncing the database. All the applications users will get disconnected. So instead of doing that, you can add a new temp file and you can drop the existing temp file. Again, to drop the existing temp file, these sessions which are connected should be killed, and you can use $temp segment usage, $temp segment usage query to view to find out which are the sessions. So that's about temp file. So now we will move to the last part where we are going to restore the users table space. So one of the users table space. So let's do something. Let's do something. Let's actually connect. Let's actually connect as a sys. You can connect as an Oracle user or whatever it is. You can. Okay, let's connect as an Oracle user rather than sys user. And what we are going to do, we are going to create a table. Let's create a table space. Now the Oracle user is also DBA, so he should be able to create a table space. So let's create, and before I create a table space, let's actually show it to you that I don't have the TS. I have only 5 data files. One is the temp file, so I don't have the TS1 data file. Let's create one new table space. That table space got created. So you can see table space 1 created. Let's verify that yes, we got that particular table space. So let's verify, and yes, we got that TS1. So why we have got so many sessions? Let's close one of this. Yeah, let's close one of this. Yeah. So we got the TS1. We got a new table space. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create, let's take all of this here. And what we are going to do, we are going to create that new table into that particular table space, and then we are going to add 10K records, and we are going to commit it, and we are going to verify that. So let's run all of this together instead of running one by one. So let's run all of this. Before doing that, let me actually tell you that this particular table does not exist. So you can see table or view does not exist. So let's run this, and we should be able to get 10K records. And here you got 10K records. So we created a table. Now what we are going to do, we are going to get rid of this data file. So before I do that, let me actually do a simple thing. Let me actually do alter system checkpoint. And what we are going to do, we are going to remove that particular data file. So the TS1, I've deleted that. So now what we will do is we will try to query once again, and we will still get the output because it's in the buffer. So we'll still get the output. So now what we will try to do is we will shut down the database, and we'll try to start the database, and we should be, we'll see that. So if the database is not crashed, we can actually, try to recover this. So let's try seeing if we have any failure because we have deleted that particular file. So you can see target database mount ID does not manage, or something happened here. So let's do one thing. And list failure. Let's do this, and there is no failure. So now what we'll do, we will just try to do alter system switch log file, and let's try alter system check, and let's see if it identifies the failure. So if for now, luckily the instance did not crash. If the instance would have crashed, and I'll show you both the scenarios, So in this case, instance did not crash, but that particular table space is not there. So what we should ideally we should not get this record, but it's in the buffer. That's why we are getting this output. Now what we will do, we will, to fix this particular problem, because the database has not dropped, it has not gone offline. Let's try to make that data file offline. So let's try to make it offline. So that's done. Now we'll restore that particular table space. So we'll restore the TS1. That's done. We will recover that particular table space. And now here, did I not actually delete it? I deleted, right? Yeah, I did delete it. Okay. So, okay. So now let's do the recover table space, and that's done. And now we'll try to bring it online. And that looks good. So now the list failure anyway has not shown us that was a failure, so that's fine. So now if I run the select count for this one, we should get the output. However, let's try to do it one more time. So let's now add, actually let's do one thing. Let's actually add some more records into this. So now there are 10k. Let's try to add another 10k records into this transaction. So now let's see, there should be 20k records. Now what we are going to do now is we will again get rid of that particular file. So let's get rid of that particular file. And let's verify this time, because last time I did not verify, but this time we'll verify. Yes, TS1 is gone. And now we will shut down the database. And when we shut down the database will not come online. So let's try to start it up. So you can see we are not able to shut down, because here we got this particular. So we will try to, now we don't have an option. We will have to say shut abort. So what we are going to do, we will shut abort and we'll try to start up. Startup will also fail, because this particular table space, it will try to bring it online. Now we saw that we can recover that particular table space when the database is open. So you can see database is mounted, but it is not able to bring up the database. Now let's say you have multiple table spaces. And each application is using different table spaces. So what I'm trying to say here is something like this. So yeah, you can't even make a connection as an Oracle user, because Oracle user is the normal user. So now what we'll do, let's say you have tablespace 1, tablespace 2, tablespace 3, and let's say this particular belongs to application 1, this belongs to application 2, and this belongs to application 3. Now only this particular tablespace is lost. So you can still bring your database up, which means the TS2 and TS3 will come up, and only this application will not work. So to bring your database up, what you can do is you can actually bring that particular data file alone offline. So let me actually clear this. And let's say alter database open, which is not going to work because that particular data file is gone. So we'll make that particular data file offline. Then we'll try to open the database, and this time the database got opened, which means that database is now in the read-write mode. Now if you try to, now this particular app user can still connect. So now if we say select count star, it will not get that, because it will say that it cannot read that particular data file, and that's why it's not able to get that particular data. Now what we are going to do here is we are going to restore that particular table space. We should get exactly 20 records. So let's restore that particular table space. Let's restore that particular table space, recover that particular table space, and bring that table space online. So we brought it offline, bring it online. That's done. Now let's run the query. We got this particular message, data file was not found, or data file cannot be read. And now we should get exactly 20k records. So let's verify, and we got 20k records. So this is how you recover you can bring up the database, you can bring online, your database can be online. You have to mark that data file as offline. You have to bring the database online so that other table spaces are accessible. Then you can fix that error, and you have to then finally open the online, make that data file online. So what we did, we made that offline, we opened the database, we recovered that particular table space, we restore the table space, recover the table space, and mark that data file as online. So this is how you can fix the problem with one of the non-critical data files. So let me go back to what we have learned here. So here we learned system data file, mount mode, downtime is required, undo, mount mode, downtime is required, temp. You recreate it. You can either restart your database, not recommended, or you can add a new temp file and drop the existing one and use a table space. It's backup is required, but you can bring up your database and you can recover it in the normal open mode. So now that we have seen this, the last section of this particular tutorial is about how to restore the entire database. So if you have lost the entire database, then how do you restore it? Now that we have done multiple things, let's take one backup of the archive log. We will not take the backup of the database because we have taken the backup. We'll just take the backup of the archive log all. So let's take the backup of all the archive logs. So that's done. So what we are going to do now, we are going to delete everything. So we are going to delete the SP file, password file, init file, control file, logs, and we will also delete the table spaces. So literally everything. There is nothing. We will not keep anything, and we will see how to recover from it. So in this case, because init file is lost, we have to start up the no mount. We have to restore the SP file from some. We have to restore the SP file from the auto backup. But for that, we have to start the database in the no mount mode from some other init file. Then we have to again shut down the database. We have to start up the database in the no mount with the correct restored SP file. Then we have to restore the control file. Then we have to mount the database. Then we have to restore the database, recover the database, open the database in reset logs mode. So before doing that, let's actually do something like that. Let's add another 10K transactions. Let's add another 10K transactions, or other, let's say add another 5,000 transactions. So let's make it 25K. Let's make it 25K. So that's done. Let's verify how many are that. We should get 25K. Yes, that number looks good. Let's put it here. And we'll take this number and put it here. So we got 25K. So that looks good. Now what we will do, we will just do two things here, because we are going to delete everything. Let's do the switch file and we'll do Archivelog current. So let's actually delete everything. So we can shut down the database and delete, or whatever if we want. While the database is running, we can delete. So I'm going to delete everything from here. So the control files, redo log, sysocs, system, temp, ts1, whatever, everything we are going to delete. So that's gone. Everything is literally gone. Now what we are going to do, we are going to that's all gone, and we are also going to delete the init file, sp file, etc. So let's go and see what's there here, and we are going to delete the password file, etc. Everything we are going to delete. So let's do that. So let's now delete the password file. We are going to delete the init order file. We are going to delete, there is no sp file, so looks like we have already deleted it, or we never created it. That's okay. So fine. That's fine. So we have, okay, so that's fine. So what we are going to do now is, so the problem is the latest okay, let's see if we have the latest control file. In the latest control file, if we have the sp file, because the database was running on init file, so that might be a problem, but it's okay. We'll see what we can do the best. Otherwise, we can always create another init file. So now what we are going to do, we have literally deleted, we have no init file. So this is the sample file which we remember that we created. So, and we have deleted all the data files. Let's try to shut down the database, which will not work actually because everything is gone. So let's try to see if the database is still, the database will crash sooner or later. If it has not crashed, connected to idle instance. So actually it got crashed somewhere. So let's try to start up. It will not start because there is no parameter file. So what we need to do, we will try to use this particular parameter files. Remember that this is the init file that we just copied and modified, and this one we will use. Remember I told you we'll keep this particular init file just for so what we can do actually, instead of what we can do, we can say, remember something like this: startup p file is equal to, you can just do something like this. And I think I'm not in that particular directory. Yes, I'm not into that particular directory. So that is the reason. So let's go to the clear, and let's say SQL plus as is DBA, and let's say startup p file is equal to, so we can give a name during the startup, we can specify which p file to use. Error in identifying control file because the control file is not there. So we try to start up, now control file is looking for the control file. Now we actually should not use this p file because in this particular p file, actually if you see this particular p file, the control file locations is not all not correct because I never modified that. So if I show it to you, let me show it to you. Where was that file? I thought I'm in that directory, but that's fine. So let's go to, let's exit and let's clear and let's cat for that particular file that we used. And you can see I never mentioned control file like aura control 1, aura control 2. That doesn't look good. So what we are going to do now, we are going to use this particular init parameter file only to restore our database. So remember, this particular database, this is to just to start your database in the no mount so that we can restore our SP file. So now what we are going to do, we are trying to restore our SP file. So this is the first thing. This is, and you need to know where you have stored the backup, etc. So let's try to find where our backups are. I'm thinking that this may not work actually, but let's give a try. ls minus lrt, and I need the latest control file. So let's take this control file. And what we are going to say, we are going to say restore sp file from, let's take the location of that particular backup. And let's take the name of that particular. And sp file not found in the backup set. And I knew that this will happen because my database was actually running on the, it was running on the it, it was running on the init file. So when we took this control file auto backup, when the control file auto backup happened, that time it cannot find it. So what we will do, we will use one of the oldest control file, and I knew that it was there because I deleted it at a later point in time and I forgot to convert our database to use sp file. That's what happened. So let's use one of our older control files, and that we should be able to fix it from that older control file. So let's take exactly same location, and we will use the one of the older control file, and I know that it is there, and I have not made any modifications. And if you have made some modifications, so we restore the sp file. So now we have restored the sp file. So let's go back and verify that yes, we have got the sp file. So ls minus lrt sp star, and we should see that we got the sp file. So now what we will do, we will shut about our database because we use some dummy file. So we'll just shut about our instance, and this time we'll say startup no mount. We can't use the mount again because the control files are not there, because remember we have deleted those control files also. Here you can see literally we don't have anything. So this is the location, so we don't have anything. So once the database has been in the no mount, let's go to the RMAN session again, and we will use exactly same query, but instead of using sp file, now we'll say restore. What was the command that we use? We will use restore control file from. So let's take this, actually say let's take this here, and I'm going to say restore. No, I don't want that control file. I forgot. I want the latest control file. Why should I use that one? So let's form that command once again. So let's take this. It gets boring and it gets tiring when things don't work. So restore control file from the directory, take this location and take the latest control file which is available, and that's done. So we restore the control file, which means that here now we should see control 01, control 02. At this moment, we are good to mount our database. So we'll mount our database. So we will be able to mount our database. So now once the database has been mounted, so you can see the database is saying not open. Now we are ready to do the final step. So we are here now, we have restored the control file. So we are here, we'll restore the database, recover the database, open the database in the reset logs mode. So now what we'll do, I don't want to waste your time because it's been a long video. So I'm going to run all of these commands together. And this one has to be an Oracle user. So let's actually run it like this. And let's run all of this together and in the RMAN prompt. So I ran restore database, recover database, open database, alter database, open reset logs, open mode, verify that it is in the open mode, and select count star from the Oracle test user. So I've run all of these commands. So let's verify here. So here you can see the table spaces, the TS1, sysocs, system, undo users, all of them have appeared. So looks like that is happening good. So let's wait for the restore to complete. Once the restore is complete, it will go for the recovery. And once the recovery is completed, it will open the database in the reset logs mode, and then we will verify that it is in the read write mode. So let's give it a minute. So the recovery has started. The restore is completed. Recovery has started. Give it a few seconds. And it is looking for unknown archive log. We can ignore that. And the database is in read write mode, and the transaction is 25K, and the transaction is 25K. So whatever transactions happen, we have that transaction. Remember, I do not take the backup after doing this. I did not take the backup. So, but it was able to recover it from the archive logs. So that is an important thing. So we have covered a lot in this particular tutorial, and this is the end of the tutorial. This was the final thing which I wanted to show you. So I hope you found this particular tutorial. I know it would be a boring scenario, or because the amount of things that we covered, like parameter files, control files, redo logs, table spaces, and the entire database. And not only I covered that, I also tried to explain what is the importance of each and every component, like what is init parameter file, what is the control file, what is the redo log member, redo log group, the table spaces, data files, and the concept how the open mode, archive log, etc. I hope you found this particular tutorial. If you did find this particular tutorial useful, do like the video, do subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in next tutorial. And if I would like to say one thing, the recovering of the database when it crashes is one of the most important skills as an Oracle DBA you need to possess. If you try to familiarize whatever is explained in this particular tutorial, this particular scenario, you might come across this scenario at any point in time in your career. Try to be very familiar. You might get across some other scenarios which are not mentioned in this particular tutorial, but these are some of the common scenarios that you might trying to Google and trying to go on the internet, trying to find out what is the solution to that particular problem, and then trying to apply that solution that point in time will waste your time. And the recovery, you need to bring your database up, and the time will increase. So you need to be prepared. So that's why I'm saying watch this particular video, make sure you are prepared with this recovery scenarios. You understand how to recover your database if any failure occurs, so that if that issue occurs, you are prepared for that particular scenario. With that, I would like to say good luck. Hope you don't face this kind of problems in your DBA career, but if you do face, then I hope you are prepared after watching this particular video. Thank you again. Thank you in next tutorial. Till then, bye bye. See you. Thank you.